Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating Muslim civil society, in other words, Dr. Hashmi's organization, versus MuslimSkeptic.com, Daniel's organization. Which organization has helped or harmed Muslim Americans more? And we are starting right now with Dr. Hashmi's opening. And first, his bio. In particular, Dr. Javad T. Hashmi is a PhD candidate in the study of religion in Islamic Studies at Harvard University, former Fellow of Medical Ethics at Harvard Medical School, and practicing emergency physician. In addition to his medical training, Dr. Hashmi has obtained bachelor's and master's degrees in Arabic and Islamic Studies from UC Berkeley and Harvard University, respectively. Dr. Hashmi is currently completing his doctoral dissertation on the topic of jihad in the Quran. His research interests include Quranic studies, Islamic intellectual history with a focus on Islamic modernism, and the intersection between religion and violence. He recently stepped down from his position as research director at MPAC and the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Dr. Hashmi can be followed on Twitter at the handle Dr. Javad T. Hashmi, as well as on YouTube with handle Impactful Scholar. And with that, thanks so much for being with us. Dr. Hashmi, the floor is all yours for your opening statement.
All right, James, thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen, so give me a second. Okay, and if you could give me a 2-minute warning, please. All right, I'm ready to begin. Let me know if I can begin.
You bet. 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. Just adapting the screen. It shifted on me. And thanks very much. We're ready for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. The first thing I want to say is that I did not want to have this debate. I wanted to have the intellectual discussion that we had 2 weeks ago. That's what I wanted to have, but Daniel always likes to go ad hominem and make it personal. So he's the one who started this, but I'm the one who's going to end this. Daniel attacks all different Muslim organizations. Any American Muslim leader, organization, and personality he attacks, that's part of his grift. And MPAC is just the latest in this latest barrage. Although I recently resigned from MPAC, I'm proud of the work they do, and I'm more than happy to defend them today. But I will show today that it's Daniel and his org that are the complete grift and harm to the American Muslim community. So who's behind the Muslim Skeptic team? Well, it's a bunch of anonymous nobodies. We have no idea who these people are. It's really only 2 people. First, Daniel Haqiqatjou and his wife, Khalid, or Ola. Ola is part and parcel of this grift. She's the one who runs Al-Asna Institute, and we'll get into her in a bit. But Daniel wants to put MPAC on trial, but today I'm going to be putting Daniel on trial. The charges are this. Daniel stands accused today of being an insincere grifter, extremist, racist, hypocrite, conspiracy theory kook, smear merchant, and serial liar, and nobody should take him seriously. You could not possibly pay someone to do a better job of being an agent provocateur and of making Islam look bad than Daniel. I don't think we need to claim that Daniel is literally getting paid by some secret agency, but he is certainly lining his pockets with his obvious grift. So that's the first argument against him. He's an agent provocateur who makes Islam look bad. He himself says that Muslims who make Islam look brutal, that's Fed-like behavior, and that's the behavior that Daniel shows. In his own words, he says those people who just want to talk about Islam and slavery, sex slavery, and wife beating, they're con men. Well, Daniel, that's you. In the last year alone, you've tweeted a defense of sex slavery and child marriage well over 4 dozen times, something that even a reasonable traditionalist would never do. In fact, you make Islam look bad. You say that Islam was spread by violence. You always talk about slavery and child marriage, about Islamic slavery is what you call it, sex slavery, wife beating. The ex-Muslims and Islamophobes, they love you. They love reproducing your work. You're everywhere on their YouTube. Men must beat their wives. Here you're defending child marriage and having sex with minors. Here you're defending that Muslim women shouldn't go to college according to your version of Islam. Everything that ex-Muslims and Islamophobes say, you say, yup, you're all right. These are the things that Islam says, and you say everything that they say. In fact, it's hard to tell if you're the Islamophobe or you're the Muslim. Here you're defending rape. Here, these words could be attributed to Robert Spencer, that you can just kill someone's husband, capture her as a sex slave, relocate her to your home, and then rape her. This bothered even fundamentalists like Fareed, who pushed back against this, and then here you are arguing with him, trying to defend rape. Here's your clip that went viral about how you can have sex with a child, a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. This clip went viral. I mean, you're the Fed, you're the agent provocateur who's spreading this kind of ideas. In fact, ex-Muslims love you. Here's an ex-Muslim Reddit thread that's thanking you. Thank you, Daniel. I love that you're spreading this information. Good job. Here's another ex-Muslim Reddit thread defending you, that you're just confirming what we've been saying all along is what they say. Here's an ex-Muslim Haris Sultan saying you're making our job easier to expose Islam. Here's apostate prophet saying that you should actually get more exposure. And here's another one saying that actually, Daniel does a better job than AP in turning people away from Islam. Here's all of these accounts saying that they love Daniel and they're all Islamophobes and ex-Muslims. Even in our debate, there was somebody who said that. Daniel is burying Islam, and these people love it. Here's a right-wing think tank, which is praising him as a scholar of Islam. And here's Jihad Watch Robert Spencer saying that at least Daniel is honest, unlike so many other Islamic apologists in the West. So why does Daniel take all of these extreme and outlandish positions? It's the grift, it's the money. Here we see that he's making a lot of money off his YouTube, probably a six-figure salary. In fact, he has multiple streams of income. He runs courses like Hustlers University on his website. He has all these other sources of money, including his yearly subscription, which costs $132 per year. And then there was this fraud of a book where he just literally pressed print on his blog articles, compiled them, and slapped them all together. And he never even told his audience that that's what he did. As one reviewer said, this was a scam, a disgusting cash grab. In fact, he's so good at monetizing himself that he's featured on Alpha Muslim as an example of somebody who did a really good job, a Muslim content creator about making money. It's funny that Daniel has these accountability reports on his Muslim Skeptic site where he looks into the finances. For example, he's looking at the finances of Yaqeen Institute. But Daniel, you should release the financial records for both Muslim Skeptic and Al-Lusna Institute. You should be held publicly accountable, right? Why is Al-Lusna, your unaccredited homeschooling program, run as a for-profit business? And you might even be violating the law. So we can actually track your grift, and that's why I wanted to see the finances. To the present, you've shifted dramatically, becoming more and more extreme. Why is that? It's because of the money, obviously. In fact, recently you became famous for attacking Navigating Differences, a document that came out by some American Muslim imams on the issue of LGBTQ, and you criticized them on 3 points. But the reality is that you yourself in 2019, you put out the first version of Navigating Differences. You called it Tough Conversations. And in that, you literally said all 3 points. You said gay rights can be defended as human rights. You said Muslims ought to defend LGBTQ people. You even celebrated that we have stalwart allies amongst our LGBT neighbors. Back then, you were saying that it's inappropriate to call gay people Qom Lut, and you said don't make fun of gay people. But here, all of a sudden, in 2020, you're calling them Qom Lut, and here you're implying that we should throw them off high buildings and kill them. So you went from a compassionate imam to a psycho. What happened? You're a straight up grifter. That's what happened. Here's you. This is before your cosplay as an Islamic fundamentalist. This is when you were in a suit and a tie. In 2017, you have high praise for Imam Umar Suleiman, talking about how his scholarly credentials are beyond question and how he's doing a great job of doing the balancing act that is very difficult to do. And then all of a sudden in 2020, now you're attacking him. It's actually you who have the early onset in Alzheimer's that you're accusing him of. And now you've gone to the extreme of saying that we need to unschool. That is, don't even send your kids to public school, or forget that, private school, or even homeschool. You don't need to educate your kids at all. These are extreme positions because you have no accountability at all. All you do is attack other Muslims. You even make fun of Muslim girls who want to go to school. Like here you are making fun of girls who just want to get an education.
اما امروز خیلی جگر خودم Oh no, I can't go to school. Oh.
Is this a Muslim, or is this an Islamophobe? Here, Daniel's actually admiring the French for the French hijab ban. Here he's calling all these Muslims all these vile names like a Trumpist. Like he's Trumpian in the way he uses these nicknames. But worse than that, Daniel actually, because of his grift, is actually flirted towards Islamic extremism. Here he has on his website Sheikh Haytham Saifuddin, who's writing for Muslim Skeptic. He's a known Islamic extremist that Daniel is promoting. Here he's thanking him as Sheikh. Even Muhammad Hijab says, why are you promoting this radical extremist? Muhammad Hijab, of all people. This guy is connected to Sheikh Ahmed Musa Jibril, who wrote the introduction to his book. Who's Musa Jibril? He's a convicted felon on FBI's watch list, is considered Anwar al-Awlaki's successor. He's well known in the global jihadist scene. He approvingly speaks of ISIS's spokesperson, and one of the 2017 London attackers was said to be radicalized by his videos. Not only this, but Haytham Saifuddin is connected to Sheikh al-Alwan, the Al-Qaeda Mufti. Not only that, but Daniel defends the Al-Qaeda Mufti. Here he's defending him. And this is the same guy that's being used to justify killing Shias. The same view that Daniel, by the way, might be sympathetic to. We'll talk about that. But Sheikh al-Alwan lauded ISIS's operations, at least when they were confined to Iraq. And one of Sheikh al-Alwan's students was a 9/11 hijacker. And he's the brother-in-law to the leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. This is the guy that Daniel is defending and promoting. Then there's Sheikh at-Tarifi, who is also sympathetic to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Daniel follows him. But not only that, he quotes them. Here he is promoting his material again, and there's Sheikh al-Muhaysini, who Daniel is also promoting, who's an ISIS and Al-Qaeda sympathizer. Here's Muhaysini sending off a young boy, strapping him with bombs, and telling him to go blow himself up. Remember that verbiage when Daniel's going to use that? Well, here he is promoting a guy who does that kind of thing. So when Daniel starts praising the Taliban, that actually seems kind of mild by comparison, doesn't it? So Daniel has all of these ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Taliban connections. Now, I don't think he's a devoted ideologue. I think he's just his grift and extremism that has made him support these people. But why doesn't he denounce these people and apologize? He always demands Muslims to apologize, American Muslim leaders. Now it's time for him to apologize. And then he also promotes this takfiri mentality that we need more takfir. Here he is quasi-takfiring this Muslim hijabi girl. It's not Muslim versus Muslim. It's now Muslim versus hijabi feminist. And why is he blurring out the face of this hijabi? Why is he doing that? Because his wife cosplays. His wife cosplays and wears a niqab, even though she's not a niqab. If you show pictures of my wife, I'm not showing any pictures of your wife. I blurred out your wife. Meanwhile, you're the one. See, family pictures. Wow. Yeah, but I blurred them. Okay, she's the one who's. This is a public profile that your wife has. So as we've seen, his wife cosplays in niqab, and Daniel also cosplays. This is all theatrics for the camera. When he came to Imam Suhaib Web recently, he came with the uncut 4K video. What difference does it make if it's 4K? Is this cinema? Did you light the scene properly? Daniel is all about being watched in cinema. That's all he is. He's a hypocritical grifter. Daniel and his wife Ola preach one set of teachings for their audiences. They follow another set of teachings for their financial well-being. Daniel and Ola are the products of the same liberal education they condemn, which they use for aggressive self-promotion, especially Harvard. Daniel's publishing and teaching runs counter to the rules of traditional Islamic education. Here's Daniel ranting against cultural education about getting an anthropology degree. This is what happens if you go through this education system, according to him. And meanwhile, on his website, here he is talking about his wife who attended Harvard University, studied anthropology, and graduated with honors. Here's Daniel talking about his undergraduate degree on his book site, on his book page. Meanwhile, he has no traditional training, no ijazas, nothing. And his website is full of just postmodernist philosophy that even someone like me will say is completely un-Islamic. In fact, it's worse than that. Daniel tries to pick apart traditionally trained scholars, even though he admits that he's a jahil. He's worse than Orientalists and modernists, according to this traditionalist, because he sabotages from the inside. I promise you this, that Daniel will send his daughter to university, even though he's preaching, don't send your daughters to university. Meanwhile, he won't go to Afghanistan. He says that he will make dua. This is all crap. He lives comfortably in Texas in a comfortable home. That's what he does. He's just doing cosplay. Worse than that, he's tied to white nationalism. Here he is having a friendly bro chat with a white nationalist neo-Nazi. Here's he having with another friendly bro chat with a white nationalist, yet another one. And these are real white nationalists, by the way. Here's having another friendly bro chat with Roosh, who's a white supremacist and a misogynist. Now, you don't have to be a white to be a white supremacist. You might be asking, why? Well, he's from Daniel's from Iran. Iran is the land of the Aryans, and they actually think that they're white. In fact, Daniel seems to be arguing that as well, that, hey, people from Central Asia, we're white too, according to your logic. And he says that he's white passing. In fact, he's a racial realist. He says that races exist. He doesn't push back against these racists. And he says, I acknowledge that there are racial differences. Some races have different strengths. So Persians, for example, are more analytical and more academic. Well, I wonder how black people are. Here's race and IQ being discussed, and not a peep from Daniel pushing back. In fact, Daniel seems to accept the idea that black people are more criminal. And he says that's why certain races need more of this kind of traditional society and religion as opposed to whites, because you see, whites are independent-minded, and therefore they'll be less antisocial as compared to the other races. And again, they were talking about black people. And this white nationalist friend, what does he say? He said, I love this idea. I certainly like this hypothesis that you can use religion as a kind of whipping effect on certain minorities. And again, they were talking about black people. This would be interesting. So he gives good ideas to these white nationalists. Here he is making fun of George Floyd. Here he's talking about how George Floyd died from a fentanyl overdose as opposed to the knee on his neck. Here he's again making fun of George Floyd, making fun of Breonna Taylor. Here he is complaining, why are we talking about all these black people that are dying? What about this white kid that was killed by a black guy? And he uses the word thug life. Whenever they use thug, they're really trying to use the N-word. And he comes really close to using the N-word. He's using the word wigga here. What's a wigga, Daniel? Tell us who these wiggers are that you're talking about. Then he's worried about anti-white sentiment. And he says in his debate with these white nationalists, I love white people. I love white people. This is what he's talking about. And he wants this alliance with white people. And there's a lot more stuff. And I think I could have gone through a lot more material, but unfortunately he cut me off. The reality is that Daniel is a grifter. He's a conspiracy theorist and a grifter. He's an agent provocateur. He says that I'm an agent. He's an agent. He's acting worse than a native informer. He's acting like an agent provocateur who publicly professes the absolute worst views in the worst way possible. And he self-admits this. I didn't get a chance to talk about MPAC, but I'll talk about that in the rebuttal. Make sure to watch the slides on modern day debate, because Daniel is trying to hide from this debate and cheat in this debate, because that's what he does.
Share screen is this.
While Daniel's loading it up, oh, there we go. All right, I've got you. So it's almost all right. There we go. Ready for you, Daniel.
It's showing, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let me start the timer. And can you just give me like a 30-second warning, Jim?
Yep.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Liberalism is a genocidal project. The goal of liberalism is to eventually destroy all religions. And when it can't destroy religion, liberalism wants to reform all religions to make them compatible with degenerate liberal values. Liberalism does this because its goal is to maximize individual freedom and equality. But when you maximize individual freedom and equality, this comes at the expense of other important values like marriage, family, culture, and religion. So liberalism must destroy these institutions in order to maximize individual freedom and equality. Liberalism must use authoritarian and genocidal means to achieve this goal because people naturally resist. People don't want to see marriage, family, culture, and religion destroyed. So they fight back. Liberalism cracks down in a brutal way and unleashes a literal genocide and a cultural genocide to wipe away all those who oppose it. This is demonstrated through the history of colonialism. Liberal colonialism was a white supremacist project launched by Europe in the 19th century. Millions of people were killed. Millions more were violently subjugated. And those same brutal colonial policies continue till today because Muslims resist liberalization and secularization. So the West invades and occupies Muslim countries and backs brutal dictators to suppress any resistance. The liberal secular West has always seen itself as the good guy in all of this. In the colonial era, they called it the civilizing mission or the white man's burden to bring the savage brown people into the light of modern civilization. Today, liberals call it the war on terror and spreading freedom and democracy and promoting human rights in the developing world. But the underlying logic and motivation is the same: to destroy traditional cultures and religions and replace them with a liberal secular system. This is cultural genocide, and Muslims have been the biggest victims of this, especially post 9/11. Now, whether we're talking about the colonial era or the post-colonial era, liberal genocide has always enlisted the helps of the natives, specifically natives who are willing to sell out their people for a buck. There are different terms that refer to this general phenomenon of a person betraying his culture or his people. For example, the term Uncle Tom can be used, or native informant, or as Malcolm X popularized, house slave. In the Muslim world, you had these sellouts who collaborated with the genocidal colonial powers. These Uncle Toms were the most vile traitors to the Ummah, the very definition of munafiqeen. One of the main liberal reformers in British colonial India was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In this short opening, I cannot fully express to you what a dirty rat this munafiq was, but I can show you some of his words. For example, he wrote, "Without flattering the English, I can truly say that the natives of India, when contrasted with the English in education, manners, and uprightness, are as like them as a dirty animal is to an able and handsome man. We have no right to courteous treatment. The English have reason for believing us in India to be imbecile brutes." So he described Indian Muslims as dirty animals and brutes compared to handsome white Englishmen. He also says, "British rule in India is the most wonderful phenomenon the world has ever seen." He even says British colonialism is a gift from God. He says, "Yes, my friends, the great God above gave you the government of the East India Company." How many millions of Muslims were genocided by colonialism? Yet you have this Uncle Tom thanking God for it. Then there is this revealing quote. Sir Syed founded the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, and he said that the aim of this college was to form a class of persons, Mohammedan in religion, Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, in opinions, and in intellect. The colonial powers worked with Sir Syed to advance their genocidal project. This is a pattern we see from all liberal reformers. They work hand in hand with the feds. Now, as despicable as that Uncle Tom, Sir Syed, was, he has one huge admirer, and that's Javad Hashmi. Javad says he is closely inspired by Sir Syed. Javad even thinks of himself as a contemporary version of Sir Syed. Now, some of you might be thinking that Jafed is not a very good academic, so he probably had no clue about Sir Syed's worship of the white man. But actually, Javad defends the most racist Islamophobic views of Sir Syed. Javad is fully on board with Sir Syed's cultural genocide project, as we'll see. But the topic of today's debate is about Jawed's employer, MPAC, or the Muslim Public Affairs Council. MPAC is a political advocacy org that allegedly advocates for Muslim interests. In reality, MPAC is just a bunch of Uncle Toms who serve the US government at the cost of actual Muslims. Let's go over the receipts. Right after 9/11, Salam Mariyati, president of MPAC, who backed out of debating me, by the way, went to the Bush administration to support them in the fight against, quote, radical Islam. Mariyati gave a speech to policymakers about the importance of reforming Islam in the fight against extremism. In this speech, Mariyati literally praises colonial agents and reformers like Muhammad Abdu. Like a good Uncle Tom, Mariyati boasted that at a recent MPAC conference, a speaker had said that the closest human document representing the goals of Sharia law in the US is the US Constitution. Mariyati's message back then and today has been consistent. We are the good house Muslims because we reject the non-liberal aspects of Islam. Please, white master, accept us. Please, white master, fund us. We will help you eliminate the bad Muslims. By the way, who are the bad Muslims? Bad Muslims are the radicals like Daniel, the Takfiris, who want to practice traditional Islam and not be forced to adopt liberal secularism. Over the years, MPAC has supported numerous invasions and occupations of the Muslim world. In November 2001, MPAC supported the invasion of Afghanistan and made policy recommendations on how the US can best manage the occupied country in accordance with liberal democracy. In 2003, MPAC expressed some hesitation about the invasion of Iraq, but then a month after the invasion, which ultimately resulted in the death and displacement of millions of Iraqi Muslims, MPAC said invasion and regime change represented the will of the American people. Therefore, democratic liberalization must be delivered as quickly as possible. In 2011, MPAC cheered for NATO military action against Libya and said, quote, these changes in the Middle East and North Africa are long overdue. They're grounded in the natural human desire to be free. We support that push toward freedom and self-determination. In 2013, MPAC urged the US to take military action against Syria in order to ensure, quote, a future for Syria that is democratic, pluralistic, and inclusive. Obviously, in all these cases, MPAC will claim that they only advocated military invasion and occupation for humanitarian reasons. So it's not fair to criticize them for their long history of war advocacy. The problem with that excuse is that literally every single war advocate claims that invasion and occupation is to help the poor people in those countries. Even the most bellicose neocons have always claimed that they only want humanitarian cause. MPAC has also supported military coups. On the day of the Egyptian coup on July 3rd, 2013, MPAC published an article celebrating the overthrow of the democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi. The article says, quote, we rejoice and celebrate the victory of the Egyptian people. Of course, this US-backed coup was against a democratically elected president, but since that president supported Islamic policies, MPAC was happy to call for regime change. What's funny is that after this coup proved to be deeply unpopular in the Muslim community, MPAC retroactively added a disclaimer to the top, laughably claiming that the author, quote, in no way endorsed the military coup, end quote, when the article clearly shows that he absolutely did. This is the pattern with MPAC, as we'll see. They go back and rewrite the past in an effort to whitewash their long history of betraying the Muslim community. MPAC also has a history of aligning with Zionist organizations and interests. Obviously, MPAC has made many statements over the years against Israel. MPAC has to express this opposition to Israel because the American Muslim community would completely reject MPAC if it showed any kind of sustained allegiance to Israel. But when we look past the facade, we see MPAC's true colors. A telling example is MPAC president writing in the Huffington Post in 2015, defending the Muslim Leadership Initiative, or MLI. MLI is a Zionist organization that takes American Muslims on all expenses paid tour of Israel in order to butter them up to Zionism. In 2015, American Muslims almost unanimously condemned these sellout Uncle Toms for their betrayal of the Palestinian people. Boycotts were called to censure anyone even remotely associated with the Zionist infiltration. At this very sensitive and crucial moment, what does MPAC do? Well, Mariyati writes an op-ed telling Muslims to stop these boycotts. Don't be so harsh on MLI. They have good intentions. A more recent example of MPAC's alignment with elements of Zionist policy is their statement in support of the Biden administration's, quote, U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. Palestinian groups have condemned this Biden initiative because it conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. The White House says, quote, the strategy reaffirms the United States' unshakable commitment to the state of Israel's right to exist, its legitimacy, and its security, and makes clear that when Israel is singled out because of anti-Jewish hatred, that is anti-Semitism. Many Zionist groups have applauded this new initiative, while Palestinian activists have blasted it. MPAC, of course, sides with the Zionists. Now let's discuss MPAC's support for CVE, countering violent extremism. Like good Uncle Tom's, MPAC has worked closely with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security to implement CVE policies against Muslims. CVE was developed in Europe and the US but was exported internationally via UN Security Council Resolution 2178. What you may not realize is that CVE is the program used by the secret police in Arab countries, the Chinese to target Uyghurs, the BJP to target Indian Muslims, and Israel to target Palestinians. Many human rights groups have noted that CVE is an Islamophobic weapon to attack and cripple Muslims. Basically, CVE is a continuation of cultural genocide of Muslims from the colonial era. If you grow a beard, wear a hijab, or if you have beliefs that are contrary to liberalization, then you're branded a radical and potential terrorist, and the government is justified in surveilling you, restricting your travel, detaining you, or even assassinating you. It doesn't matter if you have never committed a crime or you've never even threatened to commit a crime, let alone actual terrorism. The mere fact that you hold illiberal beliefs means that you are a threat. This is exactly the reasoning that is now being used to put conservative Christians on terror watch lists because they protest at school board meetings or abortion clinics. MPAC has a long history supporting CVE or CVE adjacent initiatives. For example, in 2006, Mariotti pleaded for the FBI to fund his counter-radicalization program. He also outrageously said that every Islamic school should be scrutinized to make sure they're not teaching any kind of radicalism. From 2014 to 2016, MPAC collaborated with Obama's Department of Homeland Security to launch their own CVE initiative called Safe Spaces. For their trouble, MPAC was awarded around $400,000 by the feds. Several high-ranking MPAC employees like Harris Tarrant and Alejandro Buto were also rewarded for their work on CVE with cushy governmental positions. The Safe Spaces initiative claimed that Muslims who emphasize certain verses of the Quran or certain hadith of the Prophet ﷺ were potentially violent, and there needs to be an intervention with community authorities to neutralize such individuals. If a young Muslim, for example, talks a lot about classical Islamic scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn al-Qayyim, that is another red flag for potential terrorism. So MPAC contributed to government efforts to thought police and surveil the Muslim community. Again, this is what Uncle Toms have been doing against Muslims since the colonial era. Over the years, MPAC was so thoroughly shamed for their involvement with CVE, they were forced to issue an apology, essentially an admission of guilt. Of course, the apology engaged in gaslighting the community and misrepresenting the nature of their vile CVE involvement. The admission of guilt was especially dishonest because MPAC has continued to work with the federal government since then. The person who has benefited the most from selling out the Muslim community is Mariotti. The man has had a working relationship with the Bush admin, the Obama admin, the Biden admin, and even the Trump admin. In September 2022, Mariotti was appointed to the DHS Faith-Based Security Advisory Council. The council includes hardcore Zionists, Hindutva-aligned Indians tied to RSS, and career shills and CVE veterans like Mariotti. The uber-Zionist Muslim-Jewish Advisory Council immediately celebrates the appointment of pro-Zionist CVE shills like Muhammad Majid and Talib Sharif to the council along with Mariotti. A major purpose of the council is information sharing between essentially Uncle Toms and the federal government. So this is ultimately a continuation of CVE type work from MPAC. Another notable thing about MPAC is that they're literally endorsed by RAND. RAND is the official think tank of the US military, and it's infamous for its work in the war on terror against Muslims. In their report, Promoting Online Voices for Countering Violent Extremism, RAND mentions MPAC by name as one of the organizations in line with CVE policy. By the way, RAND also mentions sellout imams like Sohaib Webb, but more on that another day. So this is Javad's organization. All this dirt is just the tip of the iceberg. The reality is Javad fits in perfectly with these Uncle Toms. Jay started his role at MPAC in October 2022.
30 seconds left.
This was shortly after Mariotta's Security Council appointment. What makes Javad more malicious than the average Uncle Tom is that he constantly makes false accusations against conservative Muslims of being affiliated with ISIS or other terror groups in order to get them in trouble with the feds, not to mention his doxing. For example, he has accused me of being one step away from suicide bombing. He has similarly attacked other Muslim figures online. When confronted, he just laughs and says, "Oh, this is nothing." Ultimately, Javad is like his employers and his idol, Sir Sayed. He's a disgusting sellout Uncle Tom rat and a Murtad who worships the white man like his liberal reformist colonial predecessors.
All right. So, should show any moment. All right. There it is. I'm just going to share this link over there. And then we'll be rocking and rolling. So if I remember right, all right, here we go. So that was the end of Daniel's opening. Just going to wait for people to find the chat. And then we'll go. So we will jump into... All right, folks, we are now going to jump into rebuttal from Dr. Javad. Dr. Javad, the floor is all yours for your 7-minute rebuttal. Thanks for being with us. Go ahead. That's right. Let me do that too.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to state it for the record that it was a public profile pic, that I'm the one who blurted out. And Daniel, if he can't control his wife by his own standards, that would be, he would call such a man a duyuth, right? So like this is who Daniel is. He's actually just a, he plays this game. That's what he does. All right, so I'm ready to begin once my screen is showing.
All right,
can I start now? Oh, hold on. There's that box showing. Okay. All right. So Daniel had one lie after another lie, and please, I need a 1-minute warning. So it's hard to respond to all of this scattergun approach lies. But as far as the Islamic modernists, the vast majority of them were anti-colonial. In fact, they headed up the anti-colonial movement because they actually took the example of Japan. Japan was successfully able to modernize and fight off the colonial force. The exception is the one that he mentioned. So he tried to make the exception as the default, which was Sir Sayed. So if you look at this academic work, and by the way, you're going to have to watch it on Modern Day Debate because Daniel's too scared to show the slides. So watch it on Modern Day Debate so you can actually see my slides and the academic works that I quote. But here you see that this academic says, whereas the majority of the Islamic modernists were against colonialism, only a few of them, including the Indian scholar Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, opted for cooperation with the colonialists. The reason why he was a British loyalist is because after the events of 1857, which was like the 9/11 of that time, the rebellion and jihad was viciously put down by the British, and the Indian Muslims were targeted by the British. After this, all major Indian Muslim leaders realized the futility of jihad against the British at that time, and they all turned loyalists. Moreover, because it was different in India is because of the Hindu majority. Sir Syed feared repression by the British, which would target Muslims, and the rise of the Hindu Raj, which would leave if the British were to leave India. That's why he cultivated this relationship with the British. Sir Syed criticized the racism of British rule and called for constitutionalism and increased representation for Indian Muslims. Daniel has selectively and misleadingly quoted him. Most of those are internal critiques, and some of them are sarcastic comments that he's actually making. Daniel is not an academic or a fair historian. And anyways, the ulama at that time in India were also loyalists and quietists. Again, you can see the academic citations on Modern Day Debate, not on Daniel's channel because he's too scared. So did European colonialists want to reform Islam? Yes, some of them did say that, but actually most of them said that there's no such thing as reforming Islam. Reformed Islam is Islam no longer. It is something else. In fact, it was the Islamic moderates who took up Enlightenment ideals of liberty and human rights and demanded them from the Europeans. So they didn't really like this. In fact, what the European colonialists did support, the British especially, they promoted Salafi Wahhabism, which is the ideology that Daniel follows. He says a Hanbali. In fact, Daniel talks about the Rand report. I know the fundamentalists love the Rand report. These are the two Rand reports that they use, and they get a lot of mileage out of them. I actually contacted the author of these reports, and she confirms what I suspected, that these two reports are actually her protesting against the long-standing US government policy of supporting the extremists and the fundamentalists, the mujahideen, at the expense of other societal segments. So these two reports that they cite and get so much mileage out of are actually the exception, not the rule. The rule, in fact, has been the exact opposite. You read these two books if you want to know what the rule is. The rule is that they always support the fundamentalists. So the British are the ones who sent spies and agents, just like Daniel, to go into Saudi Arabia and support these forces against the Ottoman Empire. This was Sheikh Abdullah, who also cosplayed Islam, just like Daniel does. And here's Ibn Saud, who was actually on the payroll of the British, £100,000 a year. This is the guy who helped spread Wahhabism around the world. And this alliance, Saudi-British alliance, has continued ever since. And these are the real Rand Muslims, these traditionalist-minded masses and autocrats. This is who the West, the United States, and the UK have supported. And this alliance has a long, long history and is reaffirmed by every single American president. And that's because they saw Islamism as a bulwark against communism. So they supported right-wing Islamism against the Soviet Union. And they even wanted a Muslim version of Billy Graham that's like a Zakir Naik or like a Daniel Haqiqatjou. They didn't want secularism and they didn't want religious modernism. And again, look at the slides on Modern Day Debate because Daniel's too scared to show them. But here you see that they're all talking about if Islam is undermined and people are modernized, then they'll leave that religious passion, which is a good bulwark against communism. So this is the long-standing support of Islamism around the globe by the US and the UK. The US and the UK propped up Wahhabi Saudi Arabia and encouraged the spread of Wahhabi Salafi Islam, the brand of Islam that Daniel follows. In Egypt, the US and UK supported the Muslim Brotherhood against the Arab nationalists, leftists, socialists, and liberals. In Iran during the 1950s, the US supported the mullahs against the socialist nationalists and even overthrew the leftist nationalist leader supporting Ayatollah Kashani, Khomeini's spiritual godfather. In the 1950s, Indonesia, the US-UK supported a brutal Islamist rebellion against Sukarno, a nationalist leader. In Central Asia, the US favored right-wing Islamism in order to soften the Soviet Union's underbelly. In Afghanistan, U.S. support for the Islamic rights political movement in the country began as far back as 1973 as the U.S. sought to strengthen right-wing and conservative forces. The U.S. and U.K. supported radical religious forces and created transnational jihad in Afghanistan in order to fight off the Soviets. Meanwhile, Israel supported the Muslim Brotherhood from 1967 all the way to the late 1980s, with Hamas being created as a project of the Shin Bet as a tool against the secular nationalist PLO. In Iraq, the U.S. at some point supported Shia fundamentalists and other times Sunni extremists. It's well known that the U.S. supported the Mujahideen, from which both Al-Qaeda and the later Taliban would emerge. An unclassified document reveals that even ISIS was predicted, welcomed, and seen as a strategic asset to Western interests in the Middle East. These are the pictures and the receipts. Here you have the Made in America mullahs or Made in London mullahs. Here's Israel. Here they're talking about Israel supporting these radical Islamists. Here's Grand Mufti bin Baz of Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabi one that follows the same creed as Daniel, supporting 500,000 American troops to occupy Saudi Arabia. You're talking about the Rand Corporation. The Rand Corporation supported this policy of supporting Islamists, and it was these two papers that they cite that are the exception. So Daniel is incredibly misleading. Not only this, but these secret agencies, including of the British, have supported agent provocateurs. That's why in the UK, you have these people like Omar Bakri and Abu Hamza, all these people who are useful idiots for Western interests, and Daniel Haqiqatjou is one of them. In fact, Sheikh Ahmed Musa Jibril, who's Daniel's sheikh is connected to, is thought by some to be one such agent provocateur. This, of course, raises questions about whether Daniel is an agent provocateur or not. So that's the first part. Now we're going to get to the other lies of Daniel. There's too many that he mentioned against MPAC. The reality is he talks about Daniel, that Salam worked with George H.W. Bush and the next George Bush, but he always was critical of their policies. Here in 1991, Al-Mariati excoriates Bush's foreign policy and the US-led assault against Iraq. Again, the receipts are in the slides that Daniel is too scared to show. MPAC was opposed to the Iraq war. Here's another statement against that. They were against military interventions in the Middle East. Here, Daniel is trying to show them as Zionists. They're the opposite of Zionists. They support the BDS movement and have defended the BDS movement. And I know them because I work with them. They all support BDS. Yes, maybe they didn't say that we should go hard against MLI because they were trying to go for Muslim unity. I may not agree with that. And I think they actually changed their policy on that issue. That was in the heat of the moment. At that time, they were saying, let's work these things out. Now they're against MLI as far as I know. Daniel is a liar. He repeats one lie after another. He's a smear merchant. He takes half-truths and then uses those to attack people. He's attacked every major American Muslim leader. There's an entire website dedicated to it, and that's why he doesn't want to show this slides deck, because their entire website's dedicated to him and his lying, and he's going to call it doxing. This is not doxing. These are the lies against him, all right? Everybody says he's a liar, even the people who have completely different religious views than I do. They all say this Daniel guy is a deviant liar. Even the Jewish people, have said that he's a pathological liar. And the receipts are, again, in the slides that Daniel's too scared to show. Daniel's pattern of deception and dishonesty is well known. He calls me Jafed. He says, in the last debate, he said, you are on the payroll of an organization, MPAC, that is getting funding directly from the Department of Homeland Security. This is an outright and blatant lie and slander, which I could actually sue him for. I worked from MPAC from October 2022 to June 2023. During this time, MPAC received a grand total of $0 of federal funding, grand total of $0 from the Department of Homeland Security. The funding for my position came from local Muslim donors, which is actually one of the reasons why I decided to quit. This is a blatant lie. I had much more to go into, but we're going to go to these lies that he says, and he's used the CVE lie against all these other people, including Dalia Mogahed. And
we're going to jump into Daniel's rebuttal. Do want to say, folks, if you haven't yet, do consider voting in the chat on which speaker you thought was most persuasive. If you happen to think that it's Dr. Hashmi, put a J for Javad in the live chat. If you think that it is Daniel who's been most persuasive so far tonight, put a D in the live chat. With that, thank you very much, Daniel. The floor is all yours for your rebuttal as well. Let me just double check that you're able to speak. Sorry about that.
Is it unmuted now, James?
Yep.
All right, can you hold on while I reset?
Yes. Thanks for your votes in chat.
I was talking while I was muted.
What was it?
I was talking while I was muted.
Sorry about that. It's been a long night for me too. Go ahead. The floor is all yours.
So the first point is that this is ridiculous. Javad actually violated YouTube policies by posting pictures of children. You can look at YouTube policy. There's reports that say that YouTube will not allow live chat commentary when you have children showing in video. So Javad is actually violating YouTube policy. I don't know how a private picture of my family got on the internet, but people have Facebook pages and family members can post pictures on Facebook and not really have the best understanding of privacy settings. And then you have someone like Javad who's trolling through like all of my family's personal private Facebook profiles, and this picture is not set to privacy, so it must be a public picture. Let's post this in a debate. Like, how unethical and disgusting can you be? And how is this not like clear fed behavior? He's claiming that Muslim Skeptic is like our channel is getting money from YouTube. We get $0 ad dollars because we turned ads off from the very beginning, and we've been public about this. So he doesn't even have his facts right. My book, I make $0 from the book that I've published because I wanted as many people to have access to the book as possible. So I make $0 from the book. Like, this is just smearing without any actual facts. So he said that I focus on topics like slavery, minor marriage, concubinage. Yeah, I focus on those topics because these are the topics that are constantly being raised by Islamophobes, by being raised by Islam haters. They want to attack and destroy Islam, just like Javad. So they put pressure on these points of Islamic law, on the Sharia, the traditional Islamic religion, so that once Muslims compromise and say, yeah, I guess slavery is wrong, it's bad that the Prophet ﷺ had slaves, Once Muslims compromise on that, on slavery or concubinage or conquest, then you can move the goalpost and start reforming the next most liberally offensive aspect of Islam. This is the strategy. If you remember from the previous debate with the dominoes, once you concede on slavery, on minor marriage, on even spousal discipline, you concede on those things, then you have destroyed the religion. It's a domino effect. And when you have Islamophobes focusing on those subjects need to be defended. I defend the traditional Islamic view that is shared by 99% of Muslims throughout history, and by the way, is shared by all pre-modern and traditional religions. So Javad doesn't just have a problem with me and my approach, he has a problem with all traditional religions, just like all of these liberal Islamophobes. Again, this is cultural genocide that Javad is in favor of. Javad is lying when he says that most modernists were against colonialism. In fact, most modernists in history between the 19th century and mid 20th century were pro-colonialism. Sayyid Ahmad Khan, Sir Sayyid, the one that I mentioned in my opening, he actually sided with the colonizer in the Sepoy Rebellion. So there's a rebellion where the Indian Muslims are rising up and other Indians are rising up against the colonial powers. And Sir Sayyid is actually siding with the British Empire. So wherever we look in Egypt, Muhammad Abdu, pro-colonialism, he's on the payroll of the colonizer. Mustafa al-Maraghi, Sheikh al-Azhar, he was a Sheikh al-Azhar, pro-colonialism. Sayyid Sheikh Ahmed, pro-colonialism. Sayyid Osman in Indonesia, pro-colonialism. You know, all of these figures were pro-colonialism. The colonial powers were against Islamists. They were against people who wanted, we want Islamic rule. We don't want non-Muslims from Europe, the white man, to rule over us. You think the colonial powers were in favor of the Islamists? Like, this is so ridiculous. This is, I'm glad that this is on record. So every academic, Juan Cole, if he's listening to this, which he probably is, should realize that his student knows nothing about colonialism or decolonial studies. Let's ask Edward Said, this ridiculous idea that the colonial powers were pro-Islamist or pro-religious Muslims. Let's ask, Wael Halak. Let's ask Hamid Dabashi. Let's ask all of these experts, Joseph Massad, of decolonialism, if what Javad said had any lick of truth to it. The West supports secular dictators for a reason. How can you have any doubt about this? Look at Israel's actions against the Islamists. Look at all of these regimes that crack down on Islamists. So this is so detached from reality. Just because you show a bunch of quotes doesn't change that. There are entire academic works dedicated. There's entire departments dedicated to decolonialism, and you're going against all of that consensus. So this is really, really ridiculous. I also had some other notes here. Yeah. So he criticized Haytham Saifuddin, called him an extremist. Where's the proof for that? These are just claims that are made by trolls. And then Javad had no source. Where's the news article? Where's any kind of shred of evidence that shows that he has been indicted or charged even for any kind of extremism? He cites Alwan, Sheikh Al-Alwan. This is Saudi propaganda, and he even cited a Madkhali bootlicker from Saudi in his list of sources, like a random YouTuber. He thought people would miss that, by citing a YouTuber, that's the evidence. Yeah, AQ, ISIS, these terror groups, they can cite whatever scholars that they want. That doesn't mean that those scholars support terrorism. Show us the proof that Al-Alwan supports just murdering women and children through terror attacks, through bombings. Show that. This is just smear tactics. And I never said that Haytham Saifuddin is my teacher. He just had one article that he wrote for Muslim Skeptic in the past. That this means absolutely nothing. I have no problem saying that Haytham Saifuddin wrote that article, because he has no evidence to show that actually this brother has committed a crime or is any way involved with this kind of shady kind of behavior. also like motivated by money. Like, this is so ridiculous. I graduated from Harvard with a physics degree. I was in the tech industry for almost 10 years, almost a decade working in software as a product manager. Like, if I wanted to make the big bucks, it wouldn't be, you know, online to talk about slavery and concubinage and debate feds like you. So 30 seconds left.
Just
Was that
ran
the
out. I can
warning?
give you, but since I didn't give you the warning, I can give you 30 seconds if you need it.
Yeah, sure. So you noticed in his rebuttal, Javad didn't really address all the accusations about MPAC. He said things like, "Oh, Salam Mariyati was in the Bush administration to help Muslims." This is what all Uncle Tom say. This is what all these native informants say. "Oh, I'm working with these governments to help the Muslim community." This is what all traitors and all liars say. Like, this is your defense of Mariyati and MPAC. This is a joke. You didn't address MLI. You didn't, like, how is Mariyati supporting this clearly Zionist organization? You didn't address the invasion of Libya, the Egyptian coup. You didn't address any of these points about MPAC. You didn't get to address CVE either. This is a fail on your part, Jafed. Like, everyone can see that you are part and parcel of this Fed behavior.
We're going to kick it over to Javad. Javad, do I understand right that you somehow couldn't hear part of Daniel's rebuttal?
Yeah, it kept going back in and out. I realize now what happened. It keeps switching between my headphone and my mic, but I heard most of it, so I'll make do with it. It's fine.
Okay.
But he might. But Daniel, don't assume that I heard all of your points. So if there's something that you want to bring up, then you can bring that up.
Why don't we try 2-minute intervals for the open dialogue? If you guys really want to try open dialogue, I'm okay with trying it, but I have a feeling we're going to do 2-minute intervals anyway. So
yeah, just to start off with that.
We'll start with those 2-minute intervals. Javad, you got the first 2 minutes, then we'll kick it over to Daniel.
Okay, so thank you very much. So yes, I didn't get a chance to talk about the CVE stuff because you can only deal with so many lies at one time. So let's start with the first point, because with the liar, who's like a dedicated liar, you have to do one lie at a time. So let's start with the first and most obvious lie that's against me. Daniel has said, this is his claim: you are on the payroll of an organization that is getting funding directly from the Department of Homeland Security. This is an outright lie. Here's when I worked. This is the grand total of my funding. $0, $0 from Department of Homeland Security. So will Daniel retract this? So it's one lie at a time, because when you have a liar and a conspiracy theorist, they like to, they do a lot of associations and a lot of fast talking and stuff like that to get from one point to another. So we need to know, is this a lie or not? Now, as far as Daniel's financial thing with Alasna and Muslim Skeptic, we can't take your word for it, Daniel. Release your financial records. Why is Alasna for profit? Make it non-for-profit, and then release your records. You demand that for Yaqeen. You demand that for all Muslim organs. You have an accountability tab on your thing. So we demand the same thing. So we can't take your word for it just based on that. So the first and foremost lie you need to deal with is this slander, and then this is the CVE lie. You're trying to imply that I take CVE money, and this is the lie. So that's on CVE point. Once you deal with this point, then we'll go to the next lie that you have on CVE. As far as your other points that you raised in your rebuttal, you raised against Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. I literally gave you the academic historical reference that shows you that the modernists were anti-colonial except for in South Asia, and the reason was there was a Hindu Raj majority there. As far as simply working for this or that government at some time, the Islamic traditionalists were also on payrolls of European governments. In fact, the British government used to give Sheikh al-Islam prizes to, they call them, they give them, I think they call them Shamsuddin. They had specific prizes for them. And so the Islamic traditionalists were also on the payroll as well. So this is not a valid argument.
2 minutes for Daniel.
Yeah, so that's all nonsense. I also cited academic citations. I never said every organization needs to disclose its funding. If you are a nonprofit, you get certain governmental benefits, and therefore you are required to report your income. I'm not saying that, oh, everyone who is involved with online needs to disclose their income and their funds. That's ridiculous. So you just engage in a stupid straw man. As for Muslim skeptics like supporting extremism or terrorism, I have many times condemned ISIS. There are articles on Muslim Skeptic that specifically condemn ISIS and terrorism. We have said this over and over and over again. Feds like Jafed just bring this up to get us into legal trouble. This is how sleazy he is. Every sleazy tactic, he'll use it, including posting pictures of my children online. This claim that I said you had like money coming in from the federal government, that's not my claim. I call you a Fed because you worked for an organization that is getting all of these benefits, more than just monetary benefits. You're getting benefits in terms of your closeness to the government. You saw those pictures with Mariotti next to presidents and presidential candidates. You get access, you get all kinds of non-monetary benefits. That's what MPAC does by being Uncle Tom's, by being close to the government, by being sellouts. That's what it means to be a Fed. Everyone knows this. It doesn't mean literally like the president is handing you a check. Are you stupid? Like, this is like a stupid definition of Fed that you're using to strawman my claim. You are a Fed because your organization is so closely tied to the federal government and has been deputized to surveil the Muslim community, to promote this kind of liberal reformism in the Muslim community. Rand is literally promoting your organization. That's what makes you a Fed. Do you get it? Like, how are you not able to understand such a simple point?
So we now see him retracting his first lie. His lie, let's be very clear. He said this word for word. He says that you literally work for an organization that receives funding from Homeland Security. That is not true. That is false. $0. So you can say that there's another reason why you're a Fed, and then we can deal with that argument. But first, you have to be honest and retract your first lie, which is slander, and you said it word for word. The second point is that, Daniel, you yourself work for Yaqeen Institute. After you quit Yaqeen Institute in 2000, you complained about something they did in 2017. Used Facebook posts of Imam Umar Suleiman and claimed that they are involved in CVE. So look at this irony. I worked for MPAC years after the CVE stuff went down, and meanwhile, you were there at Yaqeen while the CVE stuff. You didn't say a word at that time. So now, are you a Fed, Daniel? You worked at an organization while they were supposedly, according to you. Now, of course, you're a smear merchant, but you were working there, so this works against you. As far as reporting people, you report people to the cops. You're the snitch. You reported Shimon Burgess, okay, a guy who's a right-wing extremist who converted to Islam and was inspired by you. You, because you have this soft spot for white nationalists and far right, and you love, I'm white too. You know, I love you white people because of that. And now he converts to Islam and spouts exactly your rhetoric, and you said to call the cops on him. I have the tweets. I have the receipts. We can show you that, where you said to call the cops. And he didn't commit a crime. So you actually engaged in exactly what the negative things of CVE are, which is pre-crime. That's what you engaged in. So you are the agent. You're an agent provocateur. And then once they follow you because you're an agent provocateur, you then call the cops on them. That's a Fed-like behavior. Meanwhile, I defended your freedom of speech multiple times. I said, even though I find your views to be extremist, I don't think they are against the law. They're constitutionally protected. I can show you the tweets on that. And number two is, I've defended Tariq Mahana all the way back decades ago. I defended him, even though I thought he was an extremist. And I said the government has done him dirty because he didn't break the law. So I've been a civil liberties advocate, whereas you are a snitch who called somebody you said to call the cops on this person because he was too radical, even though he was taking your ideas. That's Fed behavior, dude. You get people to radicalize. He's inspired by you, and then you call the cops on him. Fed behavior to me. I mean, so many other lies. I don't know where else to begin, but we'll go one at a time. So one at a time, admit that you lied.
Yeah, this is just another red herring. The thing about Burgess is, maybe you know this since you're such a Fed, Javad, that the government sends agent provocateurs to incite violence. These are people who will come into a community and say, hey, let's go bomb a synagogue. These are agent provocateurs so that they can entrap others. So when you see a person, Muslim Skeptic does not advocate violence. Yes, everyone should report someone who goes online like Burgess did and starts advocating violence and just killing people in the street. Everyone should report that. So this is not some kind of hypocrisy. The difference between that and CVE is that CVE, like the Safe Spaces initiative that your organization put out, said that you're a potential terrorist if you emphasize certain verses of the Quran or you read Ibn Taymiyyah. This is the difference. Like, there's a difference between that, reading Quran and reading Ibn Taymiyyah, and you're literally saying, oh, we need to shoot up this gay nightclub. We need to go and kill this, these non-believers. That's illegal behavior. Those are threats of violence that are universally prohibited. And Muslim Skeptic has been very consistent that that kind of behavior should be reported. So this is not some like big gotcha. As for MPAC, yes, you have gotten government grants. Your history is of getting government grants. You apply for government grants. Like, how are you denying this? I showed exactly where you're getting government grants from. DHS is sponsoring your report of safe spaces on their official website. Like, your report that your organization has produced, I didn't say that you're working with MPAC this whole time. This is a claim about MPAC, your organization. That's the kind of organization that you are working with because you have the same kind of Fed mentality. You get the argument now, or are you going to strawman me again? And also, Abdu and Marahi, these modernists that I referenced, they weren't in India. So what are you talking about?
Time. Go, Jawad. Oh, you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
All right. So Daniel plays fast and loose with the truth. I want to see, just like he lied and claimed that this was not a public profile photo, just like he claimed that I showed his kids, even though I blurred out everything. He lies all the time. He's a chronic liar. So here with Burgess, show me where he called to a criminal act. He did not. In fact, he used the same sort of rhetoric that you use, Daniel. So according to me, his speech is actually protected. So again, you, sir, are the snitch. Okay, you are reporting pre-crime. And then again, you didn't address the fact that you were working for Yaqeen Institute during the time that the CVE stuff that you yourself would later accuse them of. So again, that entraps you. Do you see how weak? Now you're all like, oh, I'm not attacking MPAC. I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking MPAC. Dude, this all started because you were trying to avoid the debate with me. Okay, so then you had to go against my employer. Okay, now as far as my employer is concerned, those things that you say about safe spaces, first of all, safe spaces. So the only CVE grant that they actually got was one grant in 2016, which was a $20,000 grant, which they got for their alternative to CVE. It's in the documentation that it's not government CVE. It's a pilot program for an alternative to CVE, which removes the deleterious aspect of a law enforcement aspect to it, and that it makes it community self-monitoring, exactly what you're saying that you should do, which is that you should report extremists. Now, me personally, I don't believe that any pre-crime should ever be reported. And in fact, what they did was from the first version of Safe Spaces to the second one, they removed that aspect. The one that you're telling to report Burgess, they removed that aspect because of civil libertarians were worried about this aspect. So they removed that. They also removed the aspect that you're talking about Ibn Taymiyyah. I also find that to be silly. You know, if you read Ibn Taymiyyah, that was an outsourcing. They made a mistake there. Not every organization is perfect. You jump on everybody and go down like you're going to Imam Sahib Web and talking to him about something that happened years ago. You have done nothing for the community. You're just a grifter. You didn't even speak about that Imam Sahib Web thing at that time. You just want cameras and show it in 4K because you want virality. Again, show your financials. Show your financials. Let's prove that you're not an agent.
Yeah, Sohaib Webb ran away. I was going to bring it up, but he ran away, unfortunately. As for Yaqeen funding, I have never said that Yaqeen takes CVE money. I have never made this claim. So you are a liar. You are strawmanning me. I said that there are many individuals in Yaqeen that have a background with CVE, whether they have been part of the CVE program, whether they have spearheaded or promoted the CVE program. That's the claim. Memorize it, Jafed, memorize it, Yaqeen Institute that are working with you probably to spread these lies. And so they're not taking Yaqeen funding. So that didn't affect me when I was just at the beginning of the organization, and I left within a few months after it became clear that they're just modernists like you. What else did you say? You only got a 20K grant. Like, this is such a Mariotti type of response. You applied for hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants. You were awarded a almost $400,000 grant. MPAC was awarded by the Obama administration. You didn't accept the grant that you were awarded for political reasons, but you applied for it. The grant, the CVE grant, was actually awarded to MPAC. You just didn't accept it because it became politically inconvenient, because the whole Muslim community was blasting you for why are you working with the federal government to police the Muslim community. That's the real story. So this is just a line from Mariotti that, oh, we only got $20,000. Even that $20,000 is Fed money. So why are you just brushing that aside? You're getting money from the Fed, so you're just admitting that my point. You're also saying that, oh, we made a mistake. Yeah, you make a lot of mistakes. You still haven't addressed the promotion of the Afghanistan invasion and occupation, the Libya invasion by NATO, which there was full support of that by MPAC. You never talked about any of that. That kind of work that CVE has done. I showed the screenshots. I showed the quotes. This is the documented record. How can you even claim that this is a pro-Muslim organization?
And time. Javad? Oh, that's right. Whenever you mute yourself, I still have to unmute you. Sorry about that. I keep forgetting.
Okay, so Daniel engages in his lies and continuous slander, and he tries to avoid the point. The point is that Daniel accused Omar Suleiman of working with CVE of people and intelligence services. We have the tweet from that. That is in 2017 when he himself was working there. And then we have his, in a nice suit and tie, he's coming up and praising Omar Suleiman and saying, tell us about this grift on your part, Daniel. Tell us about how you shifted your position, how your 2019 paper argued for the exact same things that now you're railing against them about. You're just a grifter, Daniel. That's exactly what you are. Now, as far as let's talk about, first of all, your first lie goes out the window. You said that Homeland Security was funding our organization and I was getting money from this organization. That turned out to be completely false. $0. What happened many years ago. I was not even there. So why are you calling me the Fed? Number two, you said, and if you're going to call me a Fed for another argument, then make that other argument. Don't just use this loose associations that you're doing. You're a dishonest person. You're a liar. You're a serial liar, and everybody knows it. Everybody in the American Muslim community. I have religious views that are not, people don't like because I'm a modernist. That's fine. I understand that. But at least I'm not known as a liar. You're a serial liar. Even people who say, I hate Javad's religious viewpoints, don't call me a liar. You're a liar and a grifter. Because you know what happened? You actually couldn't make it. You couldn't get a degree. You couldn't do the grad school route. You said that you're a failure in that video. You said you had to get a minimum wage job and an internship not related to your degrees. And so you were stuck. You said you were a failure. And then Yaqeen gave you the job. You took it happily. You didn't criticize them there. And then they let you go and you've been disgruntled ever since then. And now you're attacking them openly. And then you realize, oh, if I'm extreme and I grift, I get lots of followers. And this is the grift that you are involved with. Now, next, I want to deal with the lie of.
I have to.
How much time for the open dialogue is left, James?
33 minutes and 23 seconds.
Oh, okay. Should I start now?
Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I praised Omar Suleiman in the past, and then I criticized them. Yeah, it's called growth. It's called understanding the reality. It's called doing research. When you find out someone is a fraud or is doing something unethical, then you criticize for them. How is this like a own or a gotcha against me? Like, this is ridiculous. The article 2017 or the essay that I wrote about LGBT rights, I'm very clear that Muslims cannot support LGBT rights, and Muslims can actually engage in discrimination legally against LGBT. That is the argument that paper makes. Now, did I have all the same positions then that I do now? No. And I've acknowledged this. I have actually corrected my mistakes many, many times on the record, but this is like a gotcha that people like you and Madkhalis just want to keep trotting out. I've already addressed this, so this is nonsense. As for me being a serial liar, like everyone saw, Sohaib Webb also called me a liar, but when he's confronted with actual facts, then he has nothing to say. He has to run away. And just like I'm doing now, Javad, all of your claims are just straw men, like this whole Fed claim. You still haven't understood the argument. MPAC, your employer, that you very conveniently left and you dropped, or they fired you because of your dismal performance in the previous debate, very conveniently right before our debate now, they are benefiting from their government connections with DHS. DHS did grant them that for almost 400K back in 2017. So this is not a lie. The documentation is all there, and you want to just lie about it. That's all that's happening here. And yeah, so this is the Fed argument. It's not that you personally are getting checks from DHS. Like, this is a straw man. And I want you to admit that Muhammad Abdu is a modernist who was pro-colonialism. Admit that. Admit it right now, Javad.
To Javad, let me make sure he's unmuted. And reminder, folks, hit that like button if you haven't already. Thanks for your support. Go ahead, Javad.
Thank you so much. So let's deal with your lie about that MPAC gets CVE money. So the only CVE money, again, that they've ever gotten, and that's questionable because it was through the city of Los Angeles. It wasn't through directly through Homeland Security, but fine, you can count that. That was, again, as an alternative to CVE, as mentioned in the grant application, that this is an alternative, and we oppose surveillance of the Muslim community and entrapment. Okay, all policing, entrapment, and surveillance were all opposed by MPAC from the very beginning. That was what their entire alternative was designed for. It was a community alternative where we talk about public health and community growth and all this kind of stuff without law enforcement. That's why when they applied for the $400,000 grant to pilot it in 6 cities, it was declined then by the Trump administration that you, by the way, told Muslims to vote for. You said Muslims should vote for Trump. That's how silly you are in your politics and your beliefs, okay? But the Trump administration rejected it because they said MPAC is not allowing law enforcement in this plan. This alternative is not real CVE, and we reject it. In fact, you can see what the right-wing think tank said. They said MPAC was trying to fool the government and get rid of all of the aspects of CVE that they want, which is surveillance, entrapment, and policing. So the trick that you use, the sleight of hand you use as a smear merchant and liar, is you say, okay, MPAC was somehow involved in CVE, then this is what CVE is, and then you say the worst case scenario what CVE is, therefore MPAC tolerated this. But the reality is that what MPAC actually argued for was an alternative which said no policing, no entrapment, no surveilling of the Muslim community, and we just want law enforcement out completely, and it's just community self-monitoring. Now, you may disagree with that, I may disagree with that, but the point is don't misrepresent it. And by the way, you yourself did the exact same thing with Burgess, which you haven't addressed. You show me one quote where he breaks the law. You said to call the police on him. Show me the quote where give me the quote. You can't have general statements, right? You have to have a specific statement where he breaks the law. And that's what you have to show. And you can't show that.
And time.
I did explicitly address Burgess. You still haven't addressed whether Muhammad Abdu was pro-colonialism or not, or any of the other modernists that I mentioned outside of the subcontinent. So you keep dodging that question. Again, the MPAC in December 2020 apologized for involvement with CVE. So all of this justification that you're giving for CVE, your own organization, MPAC, distanced themselves and said, we were wrong on CVE. They admitted the guilt of participating in CVE. So why do you keep repeating the lie that, oh, MPAC, it wasn't really CVE? Yes, your own organization said it was CVE and we're sorry. We apologize. And this is why MPAC has been boycotted from so many mosques in Southern California and the rest of the country because they're known as feds. They're known as working with the feds against the Muslim community. So all of your claims are complete nonsense. What was the other thing that you said I didn't answer? Like Burgess. Yeah, he's making threats. Go to the video. I don't have prepared like the quote from Burgess, but he is saying we need to use physical force to stop these degenerates. Yes, that can be considered invoking violence. Go and watch the video that I made on Burgess. And this is typical entrapment behavior, agent provocateur behavior, when you go and specifically advocate for physical force or violence to enforce, some kind of ideology. So this is what the guy was doing. He was posting it on social media. This is something that is completely illegal, and we were just pointing that out. This is not a hypocrisy on our part. This is very different than saying if you read Ibn Taymiyyah or Sayyid Qutb or Ibn al-Qayyim, you're a terrorist or a potential terrorist, and authorities need to come arrest you or talk to you like MPAC has advocated for years, as they admit.
And time. Go ahead, Javad. Let me unmute you. And folks, if you haven't yet, share this debate with someone who likes these topics. Go ahead, Javad.
Daniel is a serial liar. So we've already exposed that his first lie goes out the window, which is that Javad was getting paid by Homeland Security. You literally said that word for word. That's a lie. Number 2 lie, you said that MPAC supported CVE. what MPAC did was it provided an alternative to CVE to remove the harmful aspects, because they thought at that time, their ijtihad was that the government is going to implement some form of CVE, so we might as well give an alternative that removes the harmful aspects. This is in the initial grant application for the $20,000 that they got, and also in the $400,000 grant that they didn't get. And it was rejected again because of those aspects were removed, the exact aspects that you're trying to associate with them. So you're a liar. As far as their apology, Daniel, they apologized because of community pressure. You're right, because there were people who were being dishonest and putting pressure on and saying that any involvement with CVE. However, I do think that there was other mitigating information, which I do think that an apology was a good idea, because it became apparent that government documents came out that were declassified that showed that the United States government wasn't following through on what it was stating and was using CVE to spy on Muslims against them, even though they claimed they were not. So that was information that was declassified, and so in that sense, that is something that, so you could say that they were naive and they shouldn't have done that. But the way you're portraying it as that they were trying, the way you portrayed it in your thread was that they're actively trying to spy and trap and police Muslims. This is a blatant lie. They were actually trying to remove all those aspects. And so you might blame them for being naive, and they themselves think that. But now they do. By the way, the Brennan Center themselves, who were the most critical, says that MPAC refused to work with the FBI. Okay, so I agree with the Brennan Center's viewpoint that it's against, like, it really is harmful to civil liberties that I a believer in. Meanwhile, you still need to show Burgess showing a specific, that statement that you said is not a crime. I'm sorry, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not a crime. To say that you need to respond in a general fashion, that's not a crime. As far as agent provocateur, you're the agent provocateur. You say all the negative things and you don't cross the line, because that would get people arrested. So as an agent provocateur, you have
the only thing that I advocate is traditional Islam, that all of the Islamic scholars throughout history have preached, all of these books that you consider to be extremism and you consider to be ISIS light. Like, that's all I preach. What Islam has been preaching for 1400 years, you just call that terrorism. Like, that's you. Even this debate, like your opening, proves that you're a Fed, because you're using the same kind of CVE logic. You called me a takfiri, you called me an extremist, you called me a radical. You're saying that I'm inciting violence. This is exactly what CVE is. So you're talking about how, oh, CVE is something that we disagree with. You're doing CVE in this debate. You're presuming the CVE logic of radicalization and takfirism in this very debate. So you're proving that you're just a fraud. Let's see. When will you admit that MPAC supported military invasions and the 2 to 4 million that were killed in the invasions that MPAC supported? When will you admit that the liberal West and liberal reformers support secular dictators, not Islamists? These are all things that you've avoided. What about fiqh books? Okay, ask him. So let's see the Burgess claim. Again, he said physical force. Physical force. This is illegal, and in Australia especially. So do you know Australian law? This is something that is considered incitement to violence. It is potentially dangerous. It is illegal. I don't know why you keep wanting to bring this point up. You say MPAC refused to work for the FBI. Look at the 2006 interview that I cited. He is asking for working with the FBI. Mariotti, your president, asked to work for the FBI in a counter-radicalization program. So why are you lying? Yeah, and all of these native informants and these Uncle Toms claim, oh, now we know better. Oh, the government, yeah, hindsight is 2020. That doesn't absolve you from the crimes. That doesn't absolve you from the Muslims that were spied on and were harmed by your programs at MPAC. This is such a mealy-mouthed type of apology, and it's disgusting.
All right.
One thing I want to remind you folks, actually, I shouldn't say remind, it's the first time I'm mentioning it. We actually got the poll feature to work. So instead of putting a J or a D in chat, there's now an official poll in the live chat for who you found most persuasive tonight, whether it be Javad or Daniel. Javad, thanks very much. The floor is all yours.
So Daniel is a serial liar. He can't get his facts straight. So he says, so I'm sharing my screen right now. Here's Dishonest Dan himself linking to the article, which disproves exactly what he's saying. Here in this article that Daniel himself showed, it shows that Salam al-Mariyati opposed informants and entrapment. When I said that Salam refuses to work with the FBI, I said in the program of CVE. Otherwise, MPAC believes in working with the government, because if you're not have a seat on the table, you're going to be on the menu. That's the belief. You, Daniel, you take taxpayer money. I mean, you give your taxes. Don't you want to know where it's spent? Don't you think that? So Salam was in the government, and he actually made a documentary. He was in a documentary that was against the FBI about how they're using informants. This is called the Nuremberg Jihad, Nuremberg Sting. He was in a documentary. So you're misrepresenting. Just because you work with the government doesn't mean that you support. You're actually working with the government to push back against those specific aspects, those ones that you have accused me and MPAC of. So you're a liar. Even if you had a legitimate complaint, you are a liar because you can't help yourself. So you have to say, Salam works for the FBI, therefore he supports FBI surveillance and entrapment and policing. When in fact, what he works for, and you did this against, what's her name? Mogahed as well. Mogahed gave recommendations exactly against the things that you then attributed to her because you're a liar. So Salam works for the FBI to tell them that they shouldn't do these things. And we know this because the right wing says this about Salam. They call him an Islamist. And so does the Trump administration rejected their alternative to CVE. Again, these are all lies that you're saying, Daniel. As far as their record when it comes to wars, I didn't prepare for this because you didn't have this in your initial smear thread. But from what I know is that, yeah, well, I mean, when you have a serial liar, it's hard to go through all of the onions of lie, right? But they do say that they're opposed to military actions in the Middle East, and I showed you that quote. Of course, you didn't show your audience that, right? So if there were a lot of Muslims who supported the war in Afghanistan. I'm not sure if they did or not, but you yourself were part of Yaqeen Institute, and
you already said
now grown. You've now grown, right? You've now grown, right? So it's okay for other people to grow.
All right, we'll kick it over to Daniel for his 2 minutes.
You've had double time because you talked to your audience.
No. Look at this.
Let's go over to Daniel.
Yeah, I worked with Yaqeen is comparable to working with the feds to surveil Muslims and to spread this policing of the Muslim community. He's interrupting me, James. This is not fair.
Yeah,
so stop interrupting.
You have double time.
I'll interrupt you.
Hold on, I gotta mute you now.
I'll interrupt his time too. No problem. Just tell James, enforce like him being muted.
He's muted now. Let me double check. Javad, you unmuted yourself. Wow. All right, now he's muted. Okay.
Yeah, look at this.
2 minutes.
Okay, so I started the 2 minutes. You're comparing like working with the feds to me, like giving taxes as a citizen of a country. Like this is your argument. This is so silly. Like this is, and you're just admitting everything. Like I didn't claim that Salam Mariyati endorses every policy of the FBI. Like this is such a ridiculous straw man. Again, follow exactly what I'm saying, Javad. He has asked to work with the FBI for counter-radicalization in 2006. The link that I shared, that frontline interview, shows that, his statement. Everyone can go to the link and see exactly where he says, we wanted to have counter-radicalization programs, working with the FBI. We wanted to monitor Islamic schools to make sure that they're not teaching anything that the government doesn't approve of. Go and see the quote, like I'm not saying it verbatim, go and actually see what Salam says. And then, like, according to your logic, Javad, you can work with the CIA, like you can work with the military. You can actually be involved with the Iraq invasion. But as long as you oppose some of the policies, like I'm a soldier working for the US government in Iraq, and we're killing a lot of Iraqis, but I don't agree with all the killing, maybe 50% of the killing. Like that's your logic. Therefore, it's okay. It's okay to be a soldier in the US military. Like that's such a depraved type of logic. And this is the kind of logic that MPAC rolls out to whitewash. It's disgusting pro-Zionist behavior, pro-occupation, pro-invasion behavior, pro-CVE promotion, getting funds from the government, getting all this access. What better picture of corruption do you need than Salam there smiling and shaking the hands of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama? Like, oh yeah, there's no corruption there. We want a seat at the table. That's what every Uncle Tom says. Oh, we're just helping our community. If you didn't have me sitting at the table and getting fat off of the government funding, oink, oink, pig. That's what your organization is about, Javad. Oink, oink.
Go ahead, Javad. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, oink oink sounds like you. You're the pig who calls the pigs and snitches.
You're a pig,
and you look like a pig.
You're a pig. Right? So, wow, big insult, Javad. Really good.
Yeah.
Okay,
let me speak now. Can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Yeah, just muted Daniel.
So So he has so many lies. MPAC is Zionist. MPAC supports BDS. It can't be Zionist. Another lie. MPAC supports wars. It opposes Middle East interventions, as I showed in the quote. MPAC works for the FBI. Yes, it works for the FBI to tell them to oppose surveillance, surveilling, entrapment. These are the exact things. You can look at as far as opposing radicalization. He then says, oh, he talks about opposing radicalization. Yes, by self-monitoring. That's what he's talking about. He's literally telling the FBI that leave the radicalization to us. That has been MPAC's policy, that the de-radicalization has been left to the American Muslim community. That's what Safe Spaces was all about. So you're just a liar. So you use loose connections to attack people. You're a liar. You're dishonest Dan. You call me Jafed, you're a liar. Okay. And as far as we should go back to your white supremacist talks where you have these beautiful, lovely bro chats where you're all talking about common ground. You don't have any problem with allyship. Why do you have a problem with allyship? You actually love these white nationalists. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about your views about black people. You seem to hate black people. You are a racist, Daniel. Why do you have, like, if I was on with a white nationalist and they were talking about criminality of black people, I would get infuriated. I wouldn't tell them, oh yeah, maybe they need religion more, and because white people are more sophisticated and they don't need religion. Like, Daniel, you should fight back against racists. You shouldn't have lovely chats with them. And all of your viewers are talking about what lovely chat. You can't talk to a Muslim with decency. You you insult, you yell, you do all these kind of things. But when it comes to white nationalists, Daniel loves white nationalists. He loves them. Why? Because they give him virality. That's the reason. You're a grifter, Daniel. You went from being reasonable, working with Yaqeen because you were part of the community, and then all of a sudden you left, and so you had to make money somehow, release your financial records. You won't do that. You've denied that you'll do that, and now your grift is all apparent. You grift. Okay, you don't like Haytham Saifuddin. Say it. Denounce him then. Denounce Sheikh Al-Alwan then. Denounce him. You defend him. If you were reversing your position, that's great. Why don't you do that? You ask everybody else to do these apologies, right? So Imam Suhaib Webb supported Nur Taguri. What about you supporting Sheikh Al-Alwan? Let's have you, which one's more harmful?
Let me unmute you, Daniel. It should. I just clicked unmute. There you go, Daniel.
Okay, sure. Starting the time. Yeah, how can I be? I had 2 debates or 3 actually, with white nationalists, and therefore I am pro-white nationalism. I'm trying to debunk white nationalism, and I'm providing all these arguments to debunk white nationalism, and somehow that makes me pro-white nationalist. Also, you said I used an anti-white slur before. You claimed I said, you said Wigger is an anti-white slur, so I'm using racial slurs against white people, but somehow I'm also pro-white. How does that even make any sense? I've rejected any kind of racial nationalism. I'm advocating for Islamic government, Sharia law. You know, my record is clear. I've denounced all kinds of terror groups. So this is ridiculous. You're the one who worships the white man, Jafed. Look at how you look at Sir Sayyid talking about, you tweeted this actually, an entire thread about Sir Sayyid's essay complaining about how Indian Muslims are disgusting slobs who just eat with their hands and grease dribbles down their face. Like this extremely Islamophobic, racist portrayal by this coconut Sir Sayyid. And you actually describe it in very positive terms. And you say that, oh, I felt actually very self-conscious as an Indian Muslim or Pakistani Muslim, that I also am very disgusting. I mean, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but you can go look at the thread. Oh, you know, I realize that we need to have some kind of manners, table manners. We need to reform our eating practices. Sir Sayyid is right. Muslims are disgusting. So this is the pinnacle of white supremacy. Sir Sayyid is praising the British, praising the colonizer, and you agree with Sir Sayyid. You're like, yeah, just go to any Indian restaurant, go to Shalimar restaurant, as you put it, and look how disgusting Muslims are. This is the kind of white supremacy that you support, the colonialism that you support, the liberal reform project that you support, that every academic recognizes is a disaster and is responsible for cultural and actual genocide. These are your role models, Jafed. You've actually admitted that. So how can you claim that because I debate white supremacists, I'm pro-white supremacy? What a crock. This is nonsense. Like, get a better argument. You're failing this debate. And finally, Jafed, here's a challenge for you. I want you to recite Ayatul Kursi. Prove that you're actually a Muslim. Recite the Quran, recite Ayatul Kursi for the audience, and show that you can actually recite part of the Quran. I think the audience needs to understand whether you claim to be an Islamic scholar. So prove that by actually reciting from Ayatul Kursi. I think that would be a good demonstration for the audience.
And
Or, stay
time.
silent and ignore it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Javad. The floor is all yours for 2 minutes.
So many lies. What can we do? Let's start with wigger. I never said that this was an anti-white slur. You wouldn't do that. You love white people. You repeatedly said, I love white people. All right. You said wigger is an insult against black people. You're accusing white people of acting black. Please tell us what you mean by that, Daniel. You've implied that too about Imam Suhaib Webb. Please tell us what you mean by what does it mean to be black? And why didn't you push back against when they said that black people are more criminal? Wait, why didn't you disagree with that? You said, oh yeah, they are, but let me give you a suggestion that maybe they need religion more. And then your white nationalist buddy agreed with you and said that's a great hypothesis. You say that these are debates. These are plausible deniability. They were actually friendly chats. In fact, you guys are playing footsies throughout this entire thing. You didn't even need moderator for 2 of them. You can't even stand me. You can't stand Muslims. You had to blur out a hijabi. Again, she wasn't playing cosplay like your wife. So like you can't stand them. But for white nationalists, you love them. You're a bootlicker when it comes to white nationalists. All right. You tell us, answer me this question. Do you think different races have different IQs and different levels of criminality? Can you tell us about that? Please let us know what your viewpoint is. And then if you do not agree with that, why didn't you point any of that out when you were debating supposedly these white nationalists? In fact, you were just having a love fest. And anyone can watch your discussions and just even look at the comments of the people are like, oh, I couldn't believe that white nationalists are so good. So this is all just lying from you. And as far as Sir Sayyid, you have to reach all the way back to Sir Sayyid to attack me. That's hilarious. I support certain ideas of Sir Sayyid, not all of them. I definitely think, like the most consensus of historians, that he went overboard in his statements when he was talking about British loyalism. That's fine. I believe that. But what about your Wahhabism, which was funded? The guy was literally funded. The entire Wahhabi movement was funded by the British. They were on a stipend. So if you want to say anything against modernism, what about your Aqidah that you follow? You follow Salafi Wahhabism. You've said it before. You're an Athari, and you want to now claim, oh, that's literally, you had to take the Salafi Shahada in front of these other people, which is pretty hilarious. But that's really who you are.
Kick it over to Daniel.
Yeah, I'm not a Wahhabi. A lot of these Wahhabis absolutely denounce me. A lot of these Madkhali Wahhabis, they completely denounce me. So this is like nonsense. I've never said that I'm Wahhabi. Athari is a theological school. Everyone saw you butcher it in our previous debate, and you got like refuted by 10 different Hanbalis and Atharis about that. The term wigger is a racial slur against whites. Who else is it a slur against? It means imitating black people in this caricature of black culture. That's why it's so racist for a white person to act like he's black when he's not actually black. This is not an insult against black people. This is an insult against whites. So you don't even understand like basic cultural points. Yeah, so you didn't recite Ayatul Kursi. That's what I was waiting for. Are you Googling it now, Javad? Can you recite Ayatul Kursi? The first word of it is Allah. I'll give you a hint. Can you recite it? Go ahead. Yeah, nod your head. Nod your head. No, don't interrupt. نعم
أنت تريد أن تتكلم اللغة العربية.
نعم أتكلم يا حمار يا
كم سنة درست اللغة؟
اخرس يا خنزير. So recite Ayatul Kursi.
I'm not your monkey. I'm not your monkey.
Hey James, what is this? What is this, James? This is not moderation, right?
You literally asked me.
I didn't finish my 2 minutes.
I didn't recite
I wanted to taunt him for the rest of my 2 minutes, but he interrupted.
Okay.
He didn't respond. He didn't actually recite the verse. So how can he just...
It's a rhetorical, okay.
Yeah. So recite Ayatul Kursi, prove that you actually know like one verse of the Quran. If anything, like this is really embarrassing, Javad. Recite Ayatul Kursi. Can you do that? Or are you Googling it right now? Is Khalil like sending you the verse? Can you actually read the Arabic? Recite it. Go ahead. What? This is something children, for the audience who are non-Muslims, Muslim children learn this at 5 years old. Like it's one of the first verses of the Quran that you memorize. Jafed doesn't even know this verse. Is he really a Muslim? Was he ever a Muslim? That's the question. Or is he like a Hindu?
Javad? Actually, I'll unmute you. We have enough time for, see, what we can do is 2 more. So we'll have this one from Javad. I'll start the clock in a second, Javad, once you're unmuted. We'll have one from you, Javad, then one from Daniel, and then we'll be going into the next section, which is, if I remember right, it's Q&A. So folks, if you put in a question for the Q&A, we originally have a 5-minute break for each guest. I think that was originally, though, that Daniel requested that for prayer time. So I don't know if we need that break anymore. So we should probably keep on rolling because we're already like supposed to have been done with this debate an hour ago. So Javad, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you. So not only have I studied the Arabic language for the last 10 years, I actually lead Jummah khutbahs. So yes, I do read the Quran and have memorized surahs of the Quran. I actually took study. No, I'm not your monkey and I'm not going to do it. And
Oh, yeah, because you can't.
Hey, stop interrupting. Hey, James, he's interrupting right now. Okay. Like I told you, if you want to speak in Arabic, we can have the rest of the conversation in Arabic. I do. Okay, you're muted, buddy. You know, I'm not your monkey and I'm not going to just recite on command. And the reason why is very simple. Number one is I'm not your monkey. And number two is if you even have one slight mistake in pronunciation, you're kind of jump on it. And that's the only argument that you guys have. All right. Anyways, so let's go back to Daniel, the liar. Let's dishonest Dan. The entire Muslim Ummah, you know, says that this guy is a liar. All right. Again, they might not like my religious views, but they don't call me a liar. Okay, they don't call me a grifter. They don't call me all these things that Daniel is. All right, so number one, let's release your financial records. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you making it a nonprofit? Why is Alasna not a nonprofit organization? Okay, let's talk about your associations with white nationalists. You're claiming that you debated them. What did you refute to them? All you said to them was, in the debate, you invited them to Islam and said, hey, why don't you consider a white ethno-nationalist state and just become Muslim? And you said, what if we cut off? You even were soft on migration bans. You were like, yeah, they actually, an audience member asked you and said, do you support migration bans? And instead of saying no, like somebody with guts, like the bootlicker that you are, the white bootlicker that you are, you said, yeah, actually, I discourage people to come to the West anyways. And so, and then Roosh actually says, we actually agree on that. Okay, and he understood well. So all of your people, they understand what you're doing here. We understand what you're signaling. So you are a grifter. You grift white nationalists. Why don't you condemn them and disassociate themselves? Why are you having love fest with them and footsies with them? Why don't you condemn? You still haven't condemned Haytham Saifuddin yet. You haven't condemned even Sheikh Al-Alwan yet. You haven't condemned, and even Muhammad Hijab tells you that these are extremists. You still don't say, hey, I made a mistake. This was wrong. I was wrong. I'm going to delete this content. You haven't done that. So why don't you fix your mistakes? You go around with microphone and 4K as a grifter, getting everybody. Why is your associations with these ISIS and Al-Qaeda people less bad, and white nationalists, less bad than Imam Sahib Webb just talking to this, you know, supporting this hijabi woman, which I don't agree with what he did, but that was a mistake. But you expect perfection from everybody else, and you go attack everyone else.
We've got 2 minutes left for Daniel. The floor is all yours, Daniel.
Okay, he got way over 2 minutes time. So let me explain why Muslim Skeptic or Alasna are non-profits. Because when you are a non-profit, you have to abide by certain regulations, which includes disclosing the legal names of the people who are volunteering for you or working for you, not volunteering, but the people who are on your payroll. So we have people on our payroll that don't want to be doxxed by the likes of an oink oink pig like you, Javad. We don't want to be look at what you did to me in this stream. You're posting pictures of my children. So for the safety of everyone who is involved with Muslim Skeptic, from pigs like you, we cannot be a nonprofit. That's just the nature of the kind of work that Muslim Skeptic does. That's the thing. When you want to defend Islam against people like you, feds like you, it is not easy work. And there are a lot of dangers to you and your family for defending traditional Islam, because you have this war on terror. You have a Fed organization like MPAC who puts people like you here to call other Muslims extremists and get them in trouble with their employers, with their academic institutions, with the law. So this is very risky, dangerous work because of this liberal regime, this hegemony that you are a part of. So this is why we cannot have this kind of nonprofit status. It would be great because we get all kinds of benefits for being nonprofit, but we can't even get those benefits because of people like you. As for race, you keep bringing up race. debates, I conceded the possibility that there is like race realism. This is not a racist
No,
position.
we can't talk about anything like that. Sorry. to
Okay,
interrupt.
so this is not like a racist position. And then there was another point. Yeah, Ayatul Kursi recited. Well, lame excuse. You don't want. I'm fine. Like, just give me the second word of Ayatul Kursi. Can you give me the second word? Allah, I gave you the first word. What is the second word of Ayatul Kursi? Do you even know what Ayatul Kursi is? How many rakat in Surah Al-Fatiha, Jafed? How many rakat? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shake your eyes. Like, how many rakat in Surah Al-Fatiha?
You didn't even.
What is Ayatul? What is the Arabic word for debate? What is the Arabic word for debate? Can you tell me that, since you're an Arabic master? What's the Arabic word for debate? What is the Arabic word for debate? What's the second word of Ayatul Kursi? Go ahead and tell me. What's the second word of Jadal? What is the second? What is Jadal is not the word. What is the Arabic word for debate?
So you're not here.
It starts with a meme.
You don't.
What is it?
Okay.
We're gonna jump into the Q&A. I hate to do this, guys.
You did not even know. You did not
learn Arabic. You ignoramus.
I hate to do this.
Learn
to you guys,
Arabic.
but I've got to mute both of you, and I hate to do that. I know that you want to respond, Javad. During the Q&A, we'll give you a chance where you'll be able to do that. Just tack it on the end of your answer to a different question. That's my recommendation. But I do have to go into the Q&A because we have limited time. So I'm going to unmute both of you guys, trusting you'll let me read these questions. This one coming in from, want to say thanks so much for your question. Do appreciate it. Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says, Daniel, in 2016, you said Maulana Salim, who pled guilty, you said he was innocent. One woman's clothing had semen. I don't know if the analysis of the semen was published. Do you now apologize to those women? Yes or no?
Maulana Salim is a great scholar. These deviants, people like Jafed, tried to frame him. He pled guilty. Why? Because it was a plea agreement. He's in his old age, and he had to agree to that because people like Jafed were blackmailing him. If you go to Muslim Skeptic, I'm very proud of that article, alhamdulillah, that I got the opportunity to defend this great scholar, Maulana Salim, Abdullah Salim, one of the forerunners of Islam in America, and has one of the biggest Islamic madrasas in America. So mashallah, he is a great scholar. I will defend him to this day. The people who smeared him, they'll be held accountable by Allah. And yeah, the whole case was a hatchet job. And I showed that through analysis of the actual court records. This was an embarrassment. It was a hit job. He served no time in prison. So people like Jafed hate traditionalists. They want to get them in trouble with the law.
This is a blatant lie, slander. I never said anything about this scholar. I don't even know this case. So
people like Jafed.
Yeah, you said no. You were clearly implying. This is the way you use dishonesty, right?
People like
you dishonest. This is what smear is. This is what a smear is. Dishonest Dan.
If we have this much, I hate to do this.
Dishonest Dan. By association and affiliation, that's Daniel's hit job against everybody. We're
going to jump into the next question. This one from El Arante says, Assalamu alaikum, brothers. You are both Muslims, just putting it out there. Just gently sliding it out there. Good luck, Daniel, and good luck, Javad. Yours truly, compassionate Imam fan. Thanks for your positivity. This one from Noor Aman says, this will be Javad, his janazah prayer. Javad is the most terrible Fed of our time.
I'm the only Fed in the world who has $0 funding from any federal organization. Great. I make my own money by saving lives in the ER. Unfortunately, Daniel takes it by grifting the community and making money off of them and refuses to release his finances about that.
Okay, so these insults are allowed? Okay.
Let's see. If you want to quick give a response, if you guys can do me a favor.
No, I don't care. Just go ahead.
Do as much of the jabbing of the other, because otherwise this will take 12,000 years. Josh said, Daniel coping and seething harder than he ever has. That account is not a doxing account. It's all a smokescreen, not very Chad behavior, Danny.
Yeah, it is. So doxing means that you present private pictures, like family pictures. It's these
that
trolls.
Account didn't do that.
It's these trolls that go through Facebook and they try to find any kind of picture that doesn't have a privacy setting, and they say, "Oh, see, this is a public picture," and then they post it and they say, "Oh, see, this is not doxing. That's not what doxing. That's not all that doxing is. Doxing can be taking your personal family photos, because I don't talk about my family. I don't post my wife wears niqab on all channels, and she
Does she
is
wear it in
not-
real life? Does she wear it
she
in
is
real
not-
life everywhere?
I must.
Does she
move
wear it in real
forward.
life everywhere? Yes or no?
Let me finish my answer to your question. Okay, so just like many Muslim women who they may not wear hijab in their youth, and then they take on the hijab. They might not wear niqab at certain points, and they adopt it later. So this is just, I acknowledge.
But does she wear it now everywhere? Does she wear it now everywhere?
I acknowledge now that my wife has
Who's
taken
part
up
of a
these
lesson.
practices. Yeah, part of a
Does
lesson.
she? So she wears
why are you? This is
niqab
not
everywhere now.
Q&A for
She
you and
wears
me.
she wears niqab everywhere she goes now.
Yeah, if she's in front of men and she's mixing because she has to go to a
This is a
grocery
lie.
store, she has to go to a
I must go to the
public
next
place
one.
like that. Yeah.
Elorante says the moderator showed up in a t-shirt because it's for a murder scene. Oh boy. All out war. I don't envy either, gentlemen. Good luck. Thanks for that. Bubblegum Gun says, hey, James, you want to show people our emails? Yes, you should show them our emails to embarrass yourself. I seriously don't care. Show them. Elorante says, ladies, calm down. Let's go. All right. Anyway, Holy Humanist says, Nuria Khan, your old buddy, Daniel. She says, is it true that many scholars have issued fatwa that Daniel's blood is halal? What does that mean?
Is there an actual fatwa against me? Not to my knowledge, but
This
I
one.
wouldn't surprise if it comes. People,
Elorante says,
compassionate imams will come and might issue a fatwa like that. Or Madkhali bootlickers, Jafed's friends.
No, I would definitely oppose that. Daniel's free to
Elorante says,
speak.
my
Just threaten
conspiracy
me
brain
through.
says my conspiracy brain is running wild. Doxing became the defense. Damn. Daniel is a wasted political talent.
What is the question? That I'm talented and that I'm wasting it? Well, I don't
I
get the
guess so.
question.
Josh says Daniel has retweeted the same doxing accounts. This is a total
Yeah,
smokescreen.
that's
Stop
hilarious
being
funny.
a baby.
Why would I tweet an account that doxes me? Why would I retweet
Exactly.
an account?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's never
They're not
happened. There
doxing.
was an account.
You did.
No,
You tweeted them.
the account didn't have my profile picture in it at first.
Yeah.
And I
But
retweeted. You're behind that. I know that's your account. Jafed.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Then
sure.
the account
I waste
became
my
a doxing
time
account.
with that. Yeah.
The account.
Yeah, sure.
The account spread a Photoshop
You accused
image.
me of
James, look, he's interrupting my answer.
This is for
He's-
me too.
No, well, let me finish my answer.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, the question was directed to me. So this account put a photoshopped image of me in front of an Israeli flag. And so I retweeted that to say, look, this is a Photoshop. And then the account, which is probably Jafed, posted my address. So Jafed is saying, oh, I posted doxing accounts. Like, such a liar. You're the
liar. Now your lie has gone to that I'm the one behind the doxing account. Look how you have no evidence, no proof. You're just a liar. Every lie
if the shoe fits.
That's all you do. You speculate against all these Muslim leaders, and that's why you're a serial liar and grifter.
If the shoe
you
fits.
are the accomplished serial liar and grifter of the American Muslim community.
This
Do you
one
even,
coming.
do they even allow you in the masjid near you?
Oh yeah.
I have
give
a word.
So you can
Yeah,
dox me?
right.
So you can dox
you
me?
don't
one-
give
Recite
You're not-
Ayatul Kursi. You
not
couldn't even get the
allowed-
second letter
you're
of
not even
Ayatul
allowed-
Kursi.
Oh yeah, I'm not playing your game. all right?
Yeah,
I'm
you
not your
can't
monkey.
because you can't
All right,
recite.
I have
You don't
to
even
go.
know the
I can't-
Arabic word for debate. You're a clown.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
You're
I
just
gave
a
it to you.
poser.
It's
You don't know
juggle.
This one,
Arabic.
all
Juggle.
right, gentlemen.
It's
I
juggle.
gotta
It's
go forward.
munadara. It's
This
stupid.
one's
Munadara is another
gentlemen.
word for it.
All right.
Munadara is a
Munadara is
discussion
the
as
word.
well.
Al-munadara is the term
Okay.
for this kind of debate.
You think I don't know the word munadara? I've studied
Yeah,
Arabic
I
for
don't
the
think
last
you
10
do.
years.
You don't even know the
you were
second
one-
word of the Ayatul
Okay.
Kursi.
Yeah, I'm not your monkey.
That's the biggest
right?
fail. That's
Yeah,
the real fail
okay.
here.
I have to
Yeah,
figure out
alright.
how to. I had a convenient button where I could mute both of you at once, but it's disappeared. Let me figure this out. But I do want to.
Daniel will just keep speaking to his audience.
The
so he's a cheat.
second word
Hold
of
on.
Ayatul Kursi. Go ahead.
I'm not your monkey.
You haven't
Oh,
had
you're right.
time to look it up.
I lead
Oh, no.
I lead Jummah khutbahs.
Yeah,
and
there are
I'm not
many-
and I'm going to. I'm not going to know any Arabic. I actually just recite it in.
Do you know
German,
which
actually.
day
on.
khutbahs are supposed to be given? Do you know which
No.
day that
Yeah.
is?
Oh, I wonder what day that is, Daniel.
How many
It's very
rakat
confusing to me.
in
2 seconds, I'm
Salatul
just gonna-
Jumu'ah? Do you know
Surat
that?
al-Fatiha. Yeah, that's
you know?
hilarious. Yeah.
Do you know how many
Alright.
wudu?
All right.
You know
What
what
are you,
do you know
why are
what
you
wudu
asking
is?
these silly questions? You didn't even know what ijma, the problem with
Do you
ijma
know?
is.
Do you know?
I watched your review
Do you know
debate.
the
You didn't even
second
know
word of
what is the
Ayatul
problem with
Kursi?
ijma.
The second
What is
word.
the problem with ijma? No, don't get scared now. You're saying
Allahu
what is the
la.
problem
Okay,
with
the second
ijma?
word is la.
What
What's
is the
the
problem
third
with
word?
ijma? When I was saying that
What
ijma
is
is
the third
circular,
word?
what did I mean by that? What did
What
I
is the
mean by
third
ijma is
word
circular?
of
What did I
Ayatul
mean when ijma
Kursi?
is circular?
There's the button. Okay, sorry to do this to you guys. You're on mute, but I do have to go forward. This one coming in from, oh yeah, I saw it just now. I didn't see this in the chat while we were going, but folks, you can't have any sort of ethnic slurs. So I'm gonna have to ban those accounts that used it. And then mods, if you see the word PAKI in the chat, I just looked it up. That's ethnic slur. If you didn't know that, it's not just an abbreviation. So we want to mute those. We're going to delete those people. So for real, folks, like we don't have any lenience with that. So Elarante says, I want my money back. It's a debate rule of engagement. Just kidding. Man the F up and let's go. I think that was when he almost canceled the debate. This is the first one in a while that I've been in like fight or flight mode. And Anya Mouse says, may Allah protect our brother Daniel from all the shayateen that are working against him of men and jinn. Islam is future proof and won't submit to liberalism. All right, this one. Elarante says, moderator is channeling. Let's see, they say, take off your shirt. What is wrong with you? It must be one of Daniel's fans. All right, come on. That's a joke. It was funny. Come on. All right. Elarante says, let's see. Holy Humanist says, if anyone has Daniel's address, I'm willing to pay a lot for it. What? Okay, that's weird. Elarante says, fun fact. Thanks for your kind words. I do want to say, I'm going to unmute our guys for a second.
Look,
I
he's
don't know.
cheating again. He's talking to his audience. That's cheating, James. He's talking to his
Let me
audience. He's getting
respond. See,
rebuttals
this is
in.
exactly.
He's
Look
cheating.
at they're
He's
doxing
cheating.
me. They're doxing me. They're trying to dox me
Yeah, they
while I'm
shouldn't dox you.
debating. Oh, they should dox
Yeah.
me. There you go.
They
There
should.
you go.
I said they should not dox you. Don't. You're such a liar. I literally just said that you should not dox
Speak
you.
clearly. Okay, speak clearly.
Okay.
Enunciate.
Yeah.
I know you can't speak
Oh, yeah.
Arabic. Enunciate. You don't
Yeah,
know Ayatul Kursi.
I'm
so
sorry. I'm a wigger.
enunciate.
I'm a wigger. What do you mean by a
No,
wigger?
there's another slur
No, if
that
I
they're
talk like a
using for
wigger,
you,
what does that
apparently.
mean? What does that mean? Yeah, they're using Paki because you.
Yeah, so why are you talking
think
about
of
like
yeah, because you're Persian,
this-
right? You're superior.
so
You're more academic and
she's
intellectual.
trying to dox me.
right?
These ex-Muslims like
You're
you
academic.
are
Tell me
involved
what
with
you mean.
doxing.
Oh,
At least
Are
Nuria, she
different
just
races
asked for my
smarter?
address.
Are different races smarter?
At least Nuria didn't
okay, I got a question.
post pictures of my family.
They
At
were
least she didn't
blurred.
post.
They were
At
public
least she didn't
profile.
post
I
my
blurred them.
children.
You liar.
She's
They were
actually
public
better than
profile
you.
photo that I blurred.
At least she's better than you.
I blurred
Nuria
them.
only wants my
Come on.
address for God knows what
Admit that I
reason.
blurred them.
Nuria,
Admit
after
that I
getting
That is
humiliated.
weird. All right,
Yeah.
but we got to go to the next
Yeah.
one. I'm sorry.
Nuria, look at
I
that,
don't.
man. She wants my address for what?
Thanks
See,
for
look,
your.
these are
wife posted it publicly.
my
I blurred
address.
it. No, your picture with showing
Yeah,
that she
so
doesn't she doesn't cosplay with.
You thought
niqab
it appropriate
outside of
to
it.
look, Jafed.
I
This is
blurred
you.
it. I blurred even the handle. I blurred the
All right,
handle.
we
This is
gotta
you.
go to the next one.
Yeah, that's you.
All right.
You're the
This is you.
Asian provocateur. You're the
This is-
dishonest Daniel.
I hate to
The
do
word
this.
is
All right.
al-munadara.
Okay, I got to do
Yeah.
this. Daniel brought a prop. Okay, this one from Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says Daniel and two. Oh, we got that one. This one from No Name. Thank you for your super chat. They said, Jafed's argument, they say, in his feminine voice, goes as follows. Daniel isn't conceding to liberal attacks against Islam like me. Therefore, Daniel is bad. And they say, no kidding, Javad. That's why the all Mu'minim love Daniel and all Munifiqeen hate him. PhD from Quiznos. I'll give you a chance to respond. It's true that. Go ahead.
So what's the exact question again? I mean, is there a question there?
They're saying that in a lot more words, they're saying that Daniel, that you're saying that Daniel isn't conceding to liberal attacks against
I mean,
Islam.
that hasn't been my attack against him in this entire discussion. I even conceded at the very beginning that the people watching this might think that my religious views are completely anathema to them. I'm okay with that. I'm okay being an academic and an Islamic intellectual in a university setting where people don't want to listen to my views. That's okay. There are going to be a small minority that do, and I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with being is being a liar and a smear merchant, someone who constantly attacks every other voice out there and personality in order to get likes and subscribes, following around, going with a camera, and just a nasty person overall. I mean, you are a nasty person who name calls. You're like Trump. I mean, you're creative like Trump. You have like Jahil North and all these names that you come up with. I mean, this is just completely silly. And now here you are cheating again, talking to your audience because you're a cheater, and you just lie. You're just a serial liar.
This one coming in from, all right, Daniel, I'll give you a chance. You guys have to stop, let's see, attacking each other in every question. Daniel, if you want to give a quick rebuttal.
Yeah, just have him recite Ayatul Kursi, just the third word. Can you do it? I gave you the first two.
Yeah,
You
this
can't.
is so tough. I can't do it.
Can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You clearly can. This is humiliating.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This one coming in from Jimbo. Let's see. Yeah, okay, Jimbo, I gotta ban you, man. You can't use anything like that. Josh says Daniel's wife literally has videos with her face on his channel. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, go ahead.
No, she
Daniel.
doesn't. She's wearing a face veil. People don't understand the concept
cosplay.
of niqab.
Cosplay. Yeah. You guys pretend to be religious. You
yeah,
actually
we pretend. You don't even know Ayatul Kursi. You call yourself an Islamic scholar. Yeah. You call yourself Islamic scholar.
Yeah.
You know how many rakat? How many rakat are in Surah Al-Fatiha, Javed?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I wonder how many.
Can you answer it?
Oh yeah, I wonder how many rakat are in wudu.
Yeah,
right?
can you?
Like,
yeah, I mean, can you answer that? Those are relevant for someone who doesn't know what surah.
Right.
What surah?
You don't even know.
Okay,
then tell me this.
What surah? What surah is Ayatul Kursi in?
Sorry, you guys. I hate to do this. Jimbo says, we got the Elarante says, Javad, please be balanced. Don't go overboard. I don't know what they are referring to. Jimbo, says MAGA. Okay. Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says, Daniel, do you now denounce the Al-Qaeda people you were promoting? Yes or no before you qualify your answer if you have to qualify it. Can you respond without insulting Javad, please?
I have denounced Al-Qaeda. I have denounced ISIS. This is a smear that certain people, because they have certain views, religious views, that they are supporters of terrorism. That is the claim that smear merchants like Jafed use to get people into trouble. That's the problem. He's a Fed, so he makes this claim that, oh, because you have certain religious views, that means you support Al-Qaeda or you support ISIS. This is exactly CVE. This is exactly what we have been discussing about in this debate. So Javad continues to smear.
Without Javad being insulted.
Okay.
I do want to just, Javad, are you sure? I mean, we've got a lot of questions. Do you have to like 10 seconds of a rebuttal? Do you want to do like?
So Daniel is always like he spreads lies and he says that. Wait. This is no. It's not an insult.
I'm sorry.
It's not an insult.
You started with the wrong. I can't. It's just going to be forever. You can't start with that and then Muhammad 7123 says, Daniel, did you see Javad's debate with Robert Spencer? Would love to see Daniel debate Spencer. Make it happen, James.
Yeah, I'd love to debate Robert Spencer, but he keeps running away. I've challenged him multiple times. So yeah, Robert Spencer, if you're listening to this, why don't you face me in debate? You write articles about me all the time. Multiple, was it like 5 articles now that you've written about me? So why can't you debate me? You can't face me like a man. So this is another person that's in the same ballpark as.
Hey, James. I just need to deal with a slander that he said against me. That's it. I'm not going to insult him. I just need to correct the record. Just real quick, 10 seconds. 10 seconds, please.
8 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So here, Daniel says that because I'm calling him an extremist, that means I'm calling the government on him. That is false. I even opposed the fact I'm even against Twitter bans against Daniel. That's his right. Here's when he was banned all the way in 2021 against Twitter.
This
And
is
I
not
said,
relevant
yes,
to the Q&A.
I just found out
He has
I do not
slides.
support such
This
bans.
is
There, you just said it right now.
these are
And I said,
Q.
however,
This is a
does not
Q&A,
involve
not your
crimes.
presentation.
I consider, for example,
This is not
Haqiqatjou
your
an extremist.
presentation.
Yet as far
Yeah.
as I know, he has not committed any crime or call to that. In fact, one of his videos with Mo Hijab, he seemed uncomfortable when Hijab was suggesting that. Therefore, I would not only report someone like I would not
Yeah,
only
so this
not
is he's reading
report
out like
someone
a
like
written
I hate
statement.
to
but I
go.
would
We gotta
protest
go to the
10
next
seconds has
arrest.
question.
passed. 10
Yeah.
seconds has
But this is
passed.
a big lie. This is a
10
big lie that
seconds
you're
has
saying.
passed.
Right.
Just because I call you an
It was
extremist
even
doesn't mean
10
that I'm saying
seconds
that
has
you should
passed.
get
8
arrested.
seconds. All right, this one from Bubblegum Gun says Javad, what's objectively wrong with terrorism? I don't care about your opinion. Tell me an objective argument. Else this all whining that Daniel isn't LGBT.
I don't understand the question, but as far as what's wrong with terrorism, it goes against both scripturally and from a reason-based perspective. We have reasons to obviously be opposed to that terrorism, as well as waging wars of aggression and this sort of thing. I mean, that's all I could say to that. That's a long question. That's a long answer if I wanted to give that. I don't think it's really relevant either.
One quick question that I still don't understand, something that escapes me still. Was there an accusation that Daniel that him and his wife went to a gay bar at the start of the debate? What was that?
No, no,
What? How did
that
I
was
get
a
that?
hypothetical. That was a
Oh, okay.
hypothetical. We were saying that
Okay.
if
I
I
was
was making a
okay.
hypothetical that
Gotcha.
if we
Gotcha.
found a
I'm not
picture,
trying to make
yeah,
a point. I was like, why did that come up? I was like, was that an accusation? Elorante says, I think I am going to Gish Gallop away from here soon. This is a high school fight. Wow. Which is long overdue. We
Elorante
need
is a
to end the
simp.
beef.
Elorante is a simp. You need to be a
these are the
Chad like James.
these are the names
Thank
that he
you,
uses for
Daniel,
everybody.
for
Name
this.
calling.
This one, the super sticker. Thanks, Ronnie Al-Sanan. Seriously, we appreciate your support. As well as Mr. Uptight says, James, a woman with face veil may take off her face veil when she is with close family. Showing a family pic without knowing the context is doxing. We've gone over this like a
Public
billion times.
profile.
Um, let's see. Elorante says, taste of what? Taste of Daniel James. He is one of a kind, bro. What does that mean? Elorante says no slides, no debate. All right. Shizu Hiwajima says feels like both sides are angling for some advantage, and since neither side can get it, both refuse to engage. This was during the phase of the debate where we were debating on whether or not whether or not his slides would show. Minecraft player says this needs subway surfers in corner. Too boring. Subway surfers? Is that a new thing? Let's see. Valorante says karma. Omar Suleiman's prayers answered. Who's that? What does this mean? You guys know?
He's the guy that Daniel used to work for and has then started smearing after he left.
Yeah, smearing with facts and video evidence and
That you didn't say anything when you were there.
Jafed seems like he's helping you, Jafed. Seems. I'm not making a claim, but seems like
I just make
a lot of your talking points are coming from Yaqeen employees. That's why
association, affiliation, like 6 degrees of separation. This is your complete
Here's
strategy.
a question for you, Javad. Can you be a Muslim and reject the 5 daily prayers like Khalil? Can you be a Muslim and reject the 5 daily prayers like your friend Khalil? Can you be a Muslim and reject the 5 daily prayers? Answer that question. Yes or no?
Do you believe in ethnically
no?
cleansing
Yes or
Shia
no?
Ismailis?
No,
You
I don't. No, I don't.
You supported
Can
it.
you answer?
You supported it.
that. Can you
You
answer?
celebrated
Can
it.
you be a Muslim
I'm
and
not your
not pray the
monkey.
5 prayers
I'm
and
not your
reject the
monkey.
5
I don't
daily
need to
prayers?
respond.
Sorry, guys. I hate to do this. There's just so many questions. Bubblegum Gun says Javad's argument is, quote, Daniel is racist and a bigot. I'm guessing you wouldn't agree with that, Javad, if you want to respond. I tried to unmute you. Let me do it again.
So I think Daniel's grift has made him grift in different extremist directions. I can't say I know what he ideologically believes because a lot of it is grift, and that grift means that he goes towards Islamic extremists on the one hand, and then white nationalists on the other. And you can just watch his interviews with his love talks with those three white nationalists, in which he didn't even need to have a debate moderator. So what kind of debate was it? And they all said it was a friendly conversation, and they enjoyed it. And
This
so
one,
I think he has deeply racialist views, and yeah, so I think they're problematic views there.
JN says, okay, Daniel, really fast. Go ahead.
Yeah, really smart. White nationalists at least have the decency not to post pictures of my children in the debate. That's why it doesn't need a
Blurred.
moderator.
Public
Unlike you,
profile,
unlike
blurred.
you, unlike you.
Public profile blurred to show the
Unlike
This
you.
grift
one
of
from
you and
Yeah.
Ola, who are part
JN.
Yeah,
of the organization.
my 2-year-old was grifting.
Blurred.
This
My
one
Completely
from
my
blurred.
3-year-old
we gotta
was
go to this. I hate to do this. JN says, shout out. Thanks for your kind words, JN. That means a lot. Thanks, Thea Vasconcelos. Thank you for your kind words as well. This was now we're in the phase of when the stream we restarted. Zaid Barakat says, don't report modern day debate. Don't let Javad the snake escape. Wow. Javad. The faces you guys have made tonight. Dr. Omar Muslim Thea says, I paid for 2 previous super chats. Will yes, they will be asked. M Sheikh says, nobody is listening to your garbage, Jafed. Attacking and insulting people's wives and kids. You might be getting a PhD, but what you need is manners. So I'll give you a chance to respond, Javed.
I never attacked his kids.
Javad, I'm sorry.
That's he's dishonest. Dan likes to name call, and he name calls imams, muftis. He actually calls Yasser Qadi Yasser. Like Sheikh Yasser Qadi calls him Yasser. Imam Umar Suleimani calls him Umar. He's a very disrespectful man, first name basis with everyone. But I never ever insulted his kids. I did say that his wife is a fraud, but that's because she's part of Alasna, part and parcel. In fact, she's a key part of all of this. So she's part of the organization. And so, yeah, I do call out that they cosplay Islam. They don't live this real life. Why doesn't he move to Afghanistan? Why not? Why don't you pick up and move to Afghanistan? If your family's not moving, then leave them. You're in Darul Kufr right now. Leave. Stand up to your beliefs and go.
This one from. Also, we put a new poll in the chat. This is the
Look
first
at it.
time
He's
ever.
talking to his audience still. I mean, this is unfair. You should tell him to stop, James.
All right. I just unmuted him so that we have a poll in the chat on whether or not you're a Muslim, atheist, or Christian. And for the first time ever, majority, 52% of our audience is Muslim. So welcome. We hope you feel welcome. Thanks for being with us, folks. This one from M. Shakes says, nobody is listening. We got that one. Richard Delhouse says, Daniel. Okay, that's weird. Pseudonym says, J for Javad pics were blurred. No crying, Daniel, please. Oh, okay. I mean, we've been through this a billion times on the pictures.
It's not gonna age well. Posting it, going after a man's wife in a debate, like this is unprecedented.
She's part of your organization.
How sleazy!
She's key part of your organization.
What
Stop
a
trying
sleazy! Yeah,
she's not a random
She does some
person.
classes on
she works for
homeschooling.
Alasna.
She's a key part.
She's part of your programming.
What a sleazy!
She comes on your YouTube channel and she justifies regressive, misogynist views.
You're a coward. You go after a man's wife and children.
You're the coward.
You're never going to live this down. Yeah. These clips are going to follow you for the rest of your life, inshallah.
You're the one who propagates
these clips are going
to
haunt you for the rest of your life,
and she
inshallah.
propagates
These clips of you not being able to recite Ayatul Kursi is going to follow you for...
mute you. Sorry about that. Let's see. And Dalhouse, it's true, I'm not reading your super chats. Dalhouse, you've been using some really bad language in the chat. You're like, seriously. In fact, I'm just going to ban you now because you just don't... I forgot that I mentioned I was going to do that. I do want to say, folks, we cannot take any more questions, so don't submit any more questions. This one from Pseudonym says, and public till to debate, no more cry, please, Daniel. Okay. Jimbo, we got that. Amir says, Jafed, the type of dude to pretend to be asleep in the car so his homies can carry him back home. Okay, is this true, Jafet? Have you done this? No, I'm kidding. Okay, this one from Pseudonym says Daniel's the prophet for Islam. Jafed, go. Let's see.
Man, do you really have to read out all of the insulting
Yeah, you're right.
statements by
These are pretty lame.
his
Sorry about that.
multitude of drones?
Let's see. We're going to take serious questions. It is
There,
true.
he's just talking to his audience again.
This
Cheating.
one from Mr.
Cheater.
Uptight says, I have to, one thing to keep in mind is that Daniel, like, probably even right after this debate, if he does an after show, will be talking to his audience.
It's cheating,
So, like,
James, but he shouldn't do it during the debate. I mean, it's cheating. And going
I
forward,
agree. I
you
would
should
like his
tell
focus
him
to
that
be
that's part of
here
the
on.
rules.
I would like for his focus to be here on the debate. But let's go to the next one. PHX576 says, Jafet, let's see, why? So,
I mean,
yeah, I do want to say, folks, if you sent in a super chat that just calls Javad Jafed, like, that's not very meaningful. We're looking for meaningful questions, as well as if you say, blah, 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 and Daniel is XYZ, Dan Fed or whatever. Mr. Uptight says, uh, Javad made Daniel's wife's name public. If his argument is that she is part of the organization and therefore fair game, he should show where she herself made it public. Would Javad be okay with his wife's name being shared publicly?
if she was a part of the organization and promoted on the YouTube channel, she's literally a YouTube host. She promotes she actually is the one that he uses to justify his misogyny, and they propagate this conservative fundamentalist form of Islam on women, women hating interpretation that is justified by her. So she's key and part. She could have been in this debate. In fact, you should actually bring her in this debate. She sits next to you on the YouTube. If she had nothing to do with your YouTube, that wouldn't be. I wouldn't mention that at all. But she's literally on your YouTube. So why don't you bring her in? Why don't you bring her in and talk about it? Like you do that anyways, and she used her to justify these kind of misogynistic red pill ideology. You need to do that, right? So this is just a tactic because he lost the debate. He lost the previous debates, and so he's desperately trying to salvage things now. And I'm just trying to show the cognitive dissonance of they live one way. They literally preach that don't go to school for education, and yet she's Harvard educated, and they advertise that she's Harvard educated, and they monetize that. That's the hypocrisy.
This one from Tarantula, Mr. James, your thoughts on Islam from these debates? Well, tonight's wasn't really on Islam, so it's hard to. I mean, there were some things related to Islam, but this one from. So long story short, tonight it was hard to. They're just only indirectly related. This one from Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says Daniel, a woman who had accused Maulana Salim of molesting her. Maulana Salim pled guilty. 3 more women said they were molested. You supported Maulana Salim, though. Do you now apologize to the women?
Yeah, so he did dox my wife because my organization does not have my wife's name on the website or on any documents. He's doxed
a public
my
figure
wife
on YouTube. She's a public figure on YouTube.
I'm a public figure too. Does that mean you can go through my legal name and my record? That's doxing. That's the definition of doxing.
Why would that be doxing?
You said her legal name. You doxed. This is not for you to respond to. This is just a point to responding to your previous claim when I was muted by James. So then, as for the question, Maulana Salim, yeah, anyone can claim to be molested. This is the grift of feminism. And we saw so many false accusations throughout the past, 6 years, 7 years with this Me Too frenzy, many proven false accusations. So if you are a figure of prominence within a community, you become a target for false accusations. So if someone falsely accused or someone accuses Jafed of raping them or molesting them, maybe like in the ER, then would we just believe that Jafed has molested a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old? Would we accept that Jafed has been raping babies in the ER? No, we would say, where is the evidence? That's how we would approach it. So I don't accept if someone claimed that Jafed,
literally on the Harvard Crimson website. It's literally on the Harvard Crimson website.
You can have multiple.
All right, I hate to do this, you guys, but we just got so many questions. Dr. Omar, we got that one. Oh, actually, it's the second one. Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says you, Daniel, have been accused of supporting Al-Qaeda supporters in this debate. Do you now condemn those individuals, yes or no, before you qualify if your answer, if you want to qualify? Give you a chance to respond on whether or not you still support. They say you've been
I have
accused of.
condemned Al Qaeda. I've condemned ISIS. These individuals are being smeared as Al Qaeda supporters. Show the evidence. Jafed didn't show any evidence. He just made claims. He just cited these YouTube smearmongers. They call me an ISIS supporter. Jafed calls me an ISIS supporter. So this is when I've clearly condemned ISIS. So
Gotcha.
this
should
is the
probably move to the
smearing.
next one. This one from Chocolate Walla says Harris Tarin, MPAC's DC director, was literally seeking a job with Homeland Security. Later, he took a job at the org that formed CVE. Javad, I think that they're trying to insinuate that you're a Fed. Am I right?
Yeah, again, it's by association and affiliation, right? So 6 steps. So I need to be responsible for everything that MPAC did ever since the start of it being an organization. And meanwhile, Daniel has no responsibility for the things that he accuses his own organization later, once he's fired and going against them, for his own grift. This is a double standard. The events happened while you were there at Yaqeen. Meanwhile, I was nowhere near MPAC when those things happened. All right. So this is a big double standard. Now, as far as them being involved in, I already told you they were involved in CVE to say that let's get rid of those aspects that are bad. Now, you can disagree with that, but it's not policing, surveilling, and all that kind of stuff that Daniel. So he's a smearmonger and liar.
So like to respond to him calling
There's no
me a
reason.
liar.
He doesn't need to respond to that.
Yes, I do.
There's
I do
no
need to
response.
respond to that. The response
not.
is that I
Then I'll
actually,
respond
when
to
I
it.
found
Really
out that
short
Yaqeen
and
is
sweet.
practicing something unethical and distorting Islam,
You
I
didn't speak on
criticize
it
them.
there. You didn't
You
speak
are
on
not
it there.
criticizing MPAC. You're defending MPAC. That's the
No,
difference.
I've
So
been
what kind of analogy
no,
are you making?
I've been
This is-
principled. I said that I
this is-
disagree with certain things they've done.
So
I'm being
then you agree
principled.
with my
I'm not a
critique of
scumbag
MPAC.
like you and go and
You
attack
agree with my
somebody that I
critique about MPAC. So you
No,
agree with my
I-
critique of MPAC?
I do
that they
not. No,
supported
not at all.
CVE.
No,
Okay, then what
because
do you condemn about them? What do you condemn
already-
about MPAC?
I already. Okay,
What?
perfect.
What do you
So now
condemn?
So now let me speak. You keep interrupting.
Condemn
me.
MPAC.
So now, yeah. So unlike you, who goes ballistic on Yaqeen, going from 1 year saying Umar Suleiman is a great scholar, unrivaled. He's in a tough
I never
position.
said that. You're just.
I have the quote.
I said he's
I have the quote.
unrivaled. He's
No, 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 no.
unrivaled.
You have this.
He's unrivaled. Where did I say he's
You didn't say
unrivaled?
unrivaled.
You
You didn't say
okay,
unrivaled.
must
Okay,
move
so you
forward.
think that you
must
can-
move on from your dumb.
Yeah. No, you said that he is. Oh, actually, let's. Get the
Yeah,
exact
I
quote.
addressed.
Oh, you want that? Let's. No,
Yeah,
let's get the
I said
exact quote.
I praised him. I praised him.
Let's get the exact quote.
Big gotcha. I praised someone, and then I found out other information about the person and actions that he committed after I made that
Gotta
statement,
move.
and I clarified. How is
I've
this a
gotta move
gotcha?
forward.
So stupid.
Jimbo
Yeah,
says,
lies.
okay, they say Javad is the Clinton-backed globalist. Daniel is the Groyper who represents and lifts up the neglected, abandoned white Muslims. Is this person trolling? Is this serious? Or
Yeah,
are
I'm
they
not a
joking?
racist. I'm
You are.
white
These are your white
Muslims,
nationalist buddies. These
Bosnian
are white nationalist-
Muslims,
I
Turkish
love-
Muslims,
I
Japanese
love white
Muslims,
people.
Indian
Say it again.
Muslims, African
I love white people.
Muslims,
You never said
Cuban
I love black
Muslims,
people.
I
You're
wanna
a
hear from
white
Javad.
nationalist.
I
Black
think it was
Muslims.
an
You're a
I
white
love all of
nationalist,
them. I
Javad.
love all of them.
Go ahead, Javad. I think
Right.
that they were attempting to target you, so I'll give you a chance to respond.
So Daniel, yeah, that's his white nationalist buddies who are signaling that they understand his white nationalism. He goes on a white nationalist, has this friendly chat, repeats that I love white people. That's the time to say I love black people when you're against a white nationalist person. That's the time not to reinforce that black people are more criminal or more violent or that they need religion more than white people. These are the things that
I
you
think
said,
that they were
Daniel.
attacking. The super chat was targeting you. I want to go to the next one. What one was it? Where are we? Oh, Abdul Halim says, Daniel, is it true that the reason you always wear thob, am I saying it right, is because your stones are too big for your pants? So are they insane? Okay. Hitchens Boot says, James Daniel says YouTube took down your live chat, except his stream also had Javad's slides with kids in them, and yet his live chat didn't get taken down. Actually, I want to be as objective and fair as I can about this. I know that seems like a knockdown argument, but it isn't actually. We don't know who did it, and so I don't want to indict Daniel's audience. Like I said, most of them have been supportive. Most of the folks at Daniel's channel have been supportive. There are some critics, but we have critics at our own channel too. The reason that this isn't a knockdown argument, though, is I thought about this as we were going. sometimes YouTube will censor one channel's video, even though the exact same video is on another channel and it doesn't get censored. So it could be, in other words, you might be thinking like, oh, if it was YouTube, then they would have taken down Daniel's live chat too. Well, not necessarily, because actually it's happened before where YouTube demonetized one of Daniel's debates that he live streamed for Modern Day Debate, but they didn't demonetize Modern Day Debate. So it's just want to be clear and not indict anybody when we don't know the answer. Elarante says, package Dr. Javad and Brother Daniel and send them to Mars. I'm just kidding. Good heat, gentlemen. Kudos to you both, sacrificing your mental health for us. It's not easy. Islam left the chat. I don't know what that means. Dr. Omar Muslim Theist says, Daniel, was Joseph and Uncle Tom, should probably not say the word Uncle T-O-M on the stream either, says, was Joseph and Uncle T working for the king of Egypt? Yes or no? Was Esther a sellout for working for Persian Empire to help save Jewish people? Yes or no? I'll give you a chance to respond, Daniel.
Working for the government doesn't make you an Uncle Tom. When you work for a corrupt government like the US government that's actively involved with killing Muslims, surveilling Muslims, entrapping Muslims, involved with colonialism, involved with oppressing Muslims, involved with literal genocide and cultural genocide, that's what makes you an Uncle T or a native informant like Jafed. And so this is a really moronic point. Just working for, my claim was never that if you work for the government, there's can be a pious government, an Islamic government, or even a non-Muslim government that is still just. That's also possible, and Muslims can work for a just government. There's no contradiction in my point against colonial Uncle T's.
This one coming in from, let me see here. I've got a little glitch on my. Elarante says, Javad is not a liar. Disagree with his stances, but he is consistent. This one coming in from Sahid Lifam says, people keep sending super chats that Javad should recite Ayat al-Kursi for this to be covered in the Q&A. I don't know what this means. This one from Abdul Halim. Go ahead.
James, I need to respond to what he said last, because if your government is corrupt, so corrupt that you can't work for that government to stop its policy. So if a government is corrupt and oppressing your Muslims, just like Esther example that person literally gave you, that's a reason to work with them and try to stop that harm. And that's exactly what MPAC has done. Now, if you think that that's not possible, then you should stop paying taxes to that government and leave. Go to Afghanistan, keep your word, and leave the country. You can't have it both ways. Either you stay here and pay taxes, and then you should have a say in how to use those taxes and prevent harm from your American Muslim community, in which case you need representation in the government. If not, leave. You just sit isolated with no responsibility, no accountability in Texas, in your basement, and stay whatever you want and harm whoever you want, because you're getting paid by these, maybe you're an agent provocateur, who knows, but you're at least getting paid by your grift. And
so if you have no disagreement with the U.S. government, if you have a disagreement with the U.S. government, you have to move. So you have no disagreements with the U.S. government. You're paying taxes, so why don't you move from the U.S.? Because you're in the U.S. and paying taxes.
Because I vote.
That you have to agree with everything what the government does.
Do you believe in voting? Do you believe in voting?
I don't vote for
so you don't vote. So you don't believe in voting.
Another
you believe it. So do you believe it's
many
haram
people
to
don't vote. Many people don't.
So you don't believe it. You believe it's haram to vote?
There's an ikhtilaf on that issue.
Okay, so you don't vote. You just say, "Here's my taxpayer money. Do what
answer
you
the
want
question.
with it.
If you disagree with the government, you move.
Aggression.
Javad, you agree with everything that the U.S. government does, right? Otherwise, you should move.
No, because I can actively work against it. I can speak against it.
Well, you left MPAC.
My government.
You were with MPAC for.
Yeah,
you were with MPAC.
Yeah, because I can still use my voice as an academic and speak
I can
out
use my voice
government.
too. I have a website. It's called Muslim Skeptic. I use my voice to advocate for justice.
Why would you be opposed to voting?
I advocate for justice. I try to influence the U.S. society by advocating for justice. Yeah, just like you advocate with voting, I advocate with my website, with my activism.
Why don't you do that in Afghanistan? You don't need internet.
Why don't you?
You just need internet.
Why don't you
Why
do
would I
your
go to
activism?
Afghanistan?
Why
I
don't
think it's
you do your
barbaric. Why would I
activism
go
from
to Afghanistan?
overseas? You
You're the
disagree with the
one.
U.S. government.
You're the one.
Your tax
Because I
dollars
can
are going to the
actively
U.S.
work with
government.
the government. I can
Yeah,
actively
I know.
push
I know.
back.
You
I
actively
can
work for the
actively push
feds. We
back.
know that. That's
Oh
why
yeah, I've
you're
never
a pig.
again a
That's
lie.
why.
Again a
Let's go to the
lie.
next
See,
one. Do
blatant liar.
appreciate it.
You're a smear
This one
merchant.
from,
Like
hate to do this, gentlemen.
How
Random
much more
commenter
of
says
this?
Javad is a Clinton-backed. Okay, we got that. 10001
It'd be nice if I could move to the U.S.
says-
to Afghanistan without the
says,
U.S. bombing it, like
no,
like
you'd be arrested
MPAC
there by the
Jesus Christ.
Taliban.
promoted.
That's what would happen.
It'd be
You'd be
great if
arrested.
Hold on. 1001 says, ask them both to recite Surah An-Nas. Javad, do you feel like doing this?
Yeah, go ahead, Javad.
I don't.
Qul a'udhu.
We're gonna go with the next one. Random
Go ahead.
commenter
You don't
says
think
Do you
that
know
I
the
know?
verse?
You don't
Do you
think
know
I
Surah
know
An-Nas?
the
from-
Do you know
last?
Surah
I
An-Nas? Do
refuse.
you know Surah
You,
An-Nas?
you really
from-
think that I don't know that when I lead
yeah,
khutbahs?
I think you don't know that.
I lead khutbahs.
No,
I
you
lead
don't.
the prayer.
No, you don't.
Nothing personal, but Chocolate Walla says Jafed keeps blabbing. Okay, got that. Famo says Javad. We got like basically all of the same over and over. Dr. Amar, Muslim theist, says Daniel is a liar, period. According to the Quran, liars will go to hell. Worst form of lying is slander, which Daniel does according to all. Supporters of liars like Daniel hurt their afterlife. Daniel will give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, go watch the latest video on my channel with Sohaib Webb. He was also one of these liberals who accused me of lying about him, and I showed the receipts, and he had to run away. So Jafed at least has
All right, we
the
gotta go to the next
testicular.
one. This one from Chocolate Walla says Jafed, you said MPAC was funded only by Muslim donors, but one of the biggest donors was the Tides Foundation. They push homosexual behavior in the Middle East. What about Prophet Lot's dawah? I'll give you a chance to respond.
I never said that they are only funded by Muslims. I said they're not funded by the federal government, and my position specifically was funded by Muslim donors. That's what I said. So Daniel made the lie that I was funded. This is why he's dishonest. He could just say I was wrong and I lied, and you're fed for other reasons. He could say that, but he's not honest enough for that. So his claim was that you are funded directly by Homeland Security. That is false. You said that MPAC is paid by Homeland Security, and that's where your salary comes from. That is false. So as far as the Tides Foundation, yes, they support things over there, but that doesn't mean that MPAC is supporting those things. Okay, just like Daniel has okay with allyship with white nationalists, he literally says that we should ally with you on what we agree on. Similarly, you can ally with people on the left. This is unfortunate that Daniel has shifted the entire discourse by his troll-like behavior and pushing everybody in the other direction.
Okay,
He
that's
himself,
enough.
he
That's
himself
insults,
allies
James.
with you. What
So
you're
you're
calling
cutting
a
me
pig?
off
You
when I
literally have a
insult.
pig.
Daniel,
You literally
if
have a
wanna give
pig that you're
quick
showing off.
response,
Cry
you
about it.
can, and then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, so this again is a misrepresentation of my claim. My claim is that
I have the quote.
that MPAC benefits financially from its connections to the federal government. That's because of its legitimacy that it gains from being affiliated with the federal government, with having a president that's literally taking selfies with presidents and presidential candidates. So it benefits financially from the government, and it's involved. It has been involved, as you have admitted, with applying for grants and getting grants from the government specifically for policing the Muslim community. So that's all my claim was.
Lie.
It's backed by
That's such a
facts.
lie.
This one.
They
This
literally
one from
oppose policing.
Elorante.
They work with the government to oppose policing.
You read
Why
certain
do you
verses of
lie?
the Quran, you're a radical. You have
This
to
one
be
from Elorante.
That's
neutralized.
false. That's
Says
false. They didn't even say
Dr.
They
that.
saw the
Okay.
screenshots. They saw the
No.
articles.
Yeah.
This
No.
one, they say,
False.
Dear Dr. Javad, this is Elorante. Since they will run with this plot, I'm asking if you could please recruit. I'm asking to hear Quran. Forget about Daniel. Okay, looks like Javad shaking his head no. This one from Richard, no. Folks, if you say anything like ethnic slurs in the live chat, you know you're going to get banned, so don't say anything like that. 10010 to both. Is slander haram? Is calumny haram? I would guess both of you would say yes. Okay, fair. This one from M Shake says Javad knows might know Ayat al Kursi, but he cannot recite. Okay. Same thing we've heard. This one from Famo says, Javad, how did you feel sitting there in your room Let's see. Oh, they said, what does it matter to you what Daniel's wife does? I think this is covered earlier in the debate. Javad, if you want to respond, you can really quick because we may have to wrap up soon.
So, okay. You know what? Just so we end this kind of nonsense about recite a verse. I mean, I could do that. The thing is that they're going to like hyperfixate on every little inflection point, and that's what they want to do. This is part of their game. When they can't figure out an argument, traditionalists will say, "Oh, look, he can't recite the Quran in this specific way or not." So, look, Surah Hayatul Kursi is in Surah Al-Baqarah, so I don't have that memorized. Okay, it's the longest surah in the Quran, but as far as making the Quran a toy, I mean, you asked me to recite, Surah An-Nas. I mean, I could do that, but they're going to just hyperfixate on my pronunciation, and but we can do that. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس مالك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. We could keep going on and on. I don't have the best pronunciation. I didn't want to pronounce it because of that reason, but I speak Arabic. I speak it with an accent. I mostly focus on reading Arabic. I have better Arabic than Daniel. He might have better pronunciation than me as far as
Gotta go to
reciting
the
the Quran,
next
but the Quran
one.
is not a toy.
I hate to do
Okay.
this, but this one from Dr. Omar, Muslim theist, says, got that one. JN says for Daniel, what do Mad Collies do to boots? Please tell me I didn't just read something inappropriate. This one from Muhammad S. You want to respond, Daniel? I'll give you a quick response.
They lick them.
Okay. This one from Muhammad S. I didn't see a question. Let me know if you have one. Alexander says, Daniel, you let your wife go to the store alone?
Yeah, that's allowed. That's permissible.
Alexander says, Dan admits his wife only wears niqab sometimes.
Yeah, when she's sitting in a family gathering, yeah, she doesn't wear it with relatives. That's true. When we're with our kids.
Elorante says Daniel makes money out of Muslim audience. That's just a fact. I hope he does well. What can I say? Mahum.
Yeah, like anyone who is involved with activism, they need funding. Every organization asks
Release
for
your
funds.
financial records.
Yeah, so we have
Release your financial records.
Yeah, so we can't do that. Why? Because we'll get doxxed. Our children, like the MS team, doesn't want their children on YouTube.
Your wife put her own picture up for everybody to see.
Sorry,
you lied about that.
You doxed
you
my
lied
family.
about that.
You're
James even admitted that it was a public profile photo. And I am the one who blurred out.
People can find pictures of your family, private photos of your family members,
that would not
and then
be
post
allowed.
them publicly. Yeah, they're public photos because of tagging. Like, you haven't made them private on Facebook, and then some loser like you finds them and posts them publicly.
I didn't show anyone.
We can do that. People can do that. I don't want anyone to do this. I don't want
family on my YouTube? Are they part of my organization?
I don't want anyone.
You're talking about people.
I don't want anyone.
Okay. Next question. Mahmoud says, great job, James. I side with Daniel. These liberal Muslims want to whitewash Islam to appeal to Westerners, unlike him who preaches true Islam. Do you want a quick, pithy response, Javad? Do you feel compelled? Do you need one? Okay, really quick and short and pithy.
What was the exact point that he said?
I mean, they're just saying that you're trying to water down Islam to make it more appealing to Westerners.
That is not the point of the debate today. Even if you don't like my religious views, that's irrelevant. The point is that you can be a deviant and even be a sincere deviant. So even if you take me as the worst deviant that ever lived, at least I'm not a serial liar and smear merchant. And so,
Khaled.
Daniel.
All right, Khaled Das says, you both have decent talking points, but for the love of goodness, both your Arabic pronunciations are horrible. Wow. So uptight. Say, let's
Arabic
debate
pronunciation is not a sign of the truth. What is actually understanding the Arabic and being able to read the classical sources, which I assure you I can do better than Daniel.
Alexander says, Daniel, why do you have a haram pig toy? Is this true? Is this haram, Daniel?
No, stuffed animals for little children are not haram. There might be
This-
ikhtilaf on that.
He
but I
literally
don't think
probably
it's
bought it
haram.
for this debate. He bought it for this debate.
No,
Yeah, you did.
it
Come on,
fits you.
admit
It fits you, right?
Admit
I
it. You
can
bought it for the
imagine
debate.
Daniel
It's
at
funny, right?
Walmart.
James
You
kept
debated
laughing
it.
at you, but
You debated it, right? You
This
bought it
one-
right up for the debate, right?
This
what if
one
I
coming
did? Like,
in.
what is the
Yeah,
what
you
does that
did.
prove?
Yeah,
This
because
one
it shows
from
you're a childish little kid.
Alorante.
That's what it shows.
All right, come on. Alorante says in Joe Rogan's voice, and then all heck broke loose. Maneem says, Javad, the word is ilah. What is the fourth word?
I'm not doing this joking. We're making the Quran into a joke. I haven't memorized Surah 2. It's the
You're the
longest
joke.
surah in the Quran. Yeah, you're the joke, Daniel. You're the one joke.
Children,
You're like
my
everybody.
my 5-year-old
Okay.
has memorized it.
Aziz
Okay.
says suicide bombing is haram, prohibited. Some Ikhwanis, Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, and some Shias support this deviant, innovated practice.
I completely reject suicide bombing and terrorism. We have an article on MuslimSkeptic.com titled, Is Jihad the Same as Terrorism? Undoing 2 decades of anti-Muslim war propaganda. It makes our position very clear. We condemn all terrorism in all its forms and terror groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
Do you condemn
This is not
Sheikh
Q&A for you.
Al-Alwan? Do you condemn Sheikh
Show me that
Al-Alwan for suicide bombing?
Show me that he encourages attacking civilians. Show me that. Prove that.
Well, okay, so you're okay with suicide bombing otherwise?
If
you're okay with
Sheikh,
suicide bombing
no,
otherwise?
I just said I rejected it. I just said we condemn it. But if you can prove that Sheikh Al-Alwan, prove that he says, yes, you can attack civilians, I'll say I condemn Sheikh Al-Alwan. How about that?
Okay.
Is that a deal? Prove it.
All right. How about this? How about if I can prove to you that they use a sheikh that you are connected to for saying that you can kill Shia as lay persons because they're unbelievers? Is that something that you're going to condemn that?
Yes,
Okay, so then
I
why don't you condemn the people? Why don't you condemn those sheikhs?
I don't consider
Why don't you
Shia
consider-
non-Muslims.
Yeah,
I don't
why don't you
consider Shia
condemn the people?
non-Muslims.
But why don't you condemn
I
the
don't
people
support any terrorism against
so you
anyone.
don't- Yeah, you can say that,
Non-Muslim,
but you
Muslim.
literally support the sheikhs that Al Qaeda and
No, which
ISIS
sheikh?
support
Which
and use.
sheikh?
I just told you, Sheikh Al-Alwan is
You
cited
just
by Zarqawi.
show me
says-
where he. Yeah, you can cite anyone. A terrorist
Okay,
can cite
so
anyone. That doesn't mean that sheikh supports terrorism. Show me where Sheikh Al-Alwan supports terrorism. You can't answer that.
Literally,
Show me where he
Zarqawi
supports.
says, I'm telling
show
you
me
right
where
now.
he supports, and I'll condemn him.
I'm literally telling you right now. He says, Zarqawi says, there are scholars who have spoken of lay Shias as unbelievers, like, and then ... Sheikh Suleiman Al-Alwan.
Okay? No, yeah, there are many scholars that who consider Shia to be non-believers.
Yeah, and he's using this.
That's not terrorism.
He's using that. Zarqawi is using that to kill Shias. That's literally the point.
That's not on Sheikh Al-Alwan. That's not on.
Yes, it is. If you are a sheikh that's being used, you use.
There are many. There are many. There are many shuyukh. Yasser Qadi.
Okay, when
not Yasser
Ilhan Omar, somebody supports Ilhan Omar, you suddenly say that you can't cite Ilhan Omar supportively. Otherwise, you're incriminated in all her LGBTQ stuff, right? You said this about Sheikh Yasser Qadi. You said this about Umar Suleiman. That if they speak approvingly of Ilhan Omar, then they're condemned for that because of her LGBTQ views. So why is it the fact that here, when it comes to extremists who are used to justify killing Shias, how come then the same logic does not apply, Daniel?
You're bungling the logic. If it was in your analogy, Sheikh Al-Alwan is like Ilhan Omar. It's the opposite. The problematic person is the one Zarqawi that you're saying is justifying killing Shia. He's problematic. Sheikh Al-Alwan is not saying kill Shia. There are many Sunni scholars. There are many Sunni scholars.
Way too much. I hate to do this, guys. We could go on any topic forever. Famo says, Javad, your opening statement was only personal attacks against Daniel. Is that because you're mad? Give you a chance to respond.
Yes, it was definitely a very personal debate that we had because Daniel attacks everyone personally. I didn't even want to have this debate. I just wanted to have the intellectual debate that we had last time. And if you compare my mannerisms in the last time, I never went personal last time. He's the one who continuously used name calling and insulting and childish behavior. And this time, I decided to reciprocate and act like him. Whether that's good or bad, we'll find out. But the reality is that we're exposing him for the grifter that he is. And
Famous
he's talking about
Javad.
Al
Or we got
Alwan. His student is a 9/11 hijacker. He's brother-in-law to the leader of Al Qaeda. None of this stuff is like relevant to Daniel. But it's like if you're associated with anyone that's even close to LGBTQ, oh my God, stay away.
This one
Different
from
standards for
Josh.
Daniel.
Josh says, Daniel, you exude very feminine energy. Mark Manley challenged you to a fight. Are you going to take it up, or do you think burning calories is haram? Give you a chance to respond.
Who?
I don't know. Mark
Who?
Manley.
I mean,
This
Daniel's
one from
holding up a stuffed
Elorante.
pig and telling me it's personal. Give me a break.
They
Yeah,
say
you called me a supporter of rape and pederasty.
You are, but those are your views.
Oh yeah, so that's not.
Those
that's
are
not
your views.
I don't support rape
No.
and pederasty. You
You
lying
do.
scumbag.
You justify.
No, I don't.
You,
no, I
you
don't.
literally were
See, this
debating
is-
with Fareed.
Yeah, so
You
it's
were
not
debating with
personal. It's
Fareed.
not personal,
You were
right? It's
debating
not
with
personal. You
Fareed.
can accuse me of being supporter of rape and
You li-
pederasty. That's
You
not
are
personal.
a rape apologist. By your views,
Yeah,
you're a
okay,
rape
yeah.
apologist.
And you're a
say
pig.
that. Okay.
Oink oink
So-
pig.
yeah,
Oink oink.
yeah, but
You
I
can't.
better-
Oink, oink. Thank you very much. This is what the debate has devolved to. This is what they say. Elorante says Robert Spencer is actually Azamat from Borat. Okay. Zain Kazi says, question for Daniel. Omar Suleiman released a video being very clear against LGBT. Have you addressed this recent video? If not, why?
Yeah, I haven't addressed it because I've been busy handling the trash, taking out the trash. But I will address it actually. So stay tuned for that. It's a great advertisement response to Omar Suleiman that's coming very soon, probably within a week or so, inshallah.
This one from, quote, that brush behind Daniel. Like you named your YouTube account after Daniel. They say Javad's gay bar example is weird. Okay, thank you. This one, just for the record, no one is at a gay bar. Alexander says, why do you have a pig toy? Not very Islamic of you. I think you already responded to that. This one from Elorante says, Giga Daniel by a, let's see, random commenter says, Daniel times Nick. He represents neglected white Muslims. What is this about you and Nick
Nick who?
Fuentes?
Oh, what about it? What about
They
him?
say Daniel
I criticized him.
X
I slammed him.
Nick.
Maybe like a
Okay.
debate. I'll debate
This-
him.
Elorante says, Daniel, bro, please give me my SIMP certificate in person. I am a physical therapist and Sambo sleep specialist from former Soviet Union. What does that mean? Syed Fashidoin says for Javad, why don't you grow a beard? Is that a Islam thing?
Yep.
Really? I didn't know that. I'll give you a
For
chance
real
to respond,
Muslims.
Javad. I just unmuted you.
So I don't believe that growing a beard is about tells you about how virtuous you are. We believe in following the Prophet when it comes to his virtue. That's what the Quran, when it talks about him being an exemplar, the very next verse is talking about his bravery and his patience and his steadfastness. So that's what we believe. So for me, following the example of the Prophet Muhammad means that I don't support brutal and nasty things like sex, slavery, rape, conquest, child marriage, these kind of things.
Yeah, the
that
Prophet
Daniel does.
had
This one.
concubines. The Prophet
to do this,
had
but
He
this
freed.
one's
We
from-
already had this debate.
Yeah.
We already had
Yeah,
this
you
debate.
lost it.
Soban.
You bungled that one too.
You lost it. You didn't even know.
Shahari
Talk
says
about my
for
kids.
Jo-
Talk about my wife.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Says
Just
for
keep bringing it back to that,
Javad.
even though they were completely
Yeah,
blurred out.
keep talking
Hey,
about my
Break.
family.
hold on.
Yeah.
They say
Yeah.
for Javad, do you
Completely blurred
denounce Aga Khan, who is well-known stooge of British?
Oh,
This
good point.
is this is again, they try to smear me, like his camp try to smear me. Sometimes they think I'm Ahmadi, sometimes they think I'm Ismaili, sometimes they think
Hindu too.
this is how Hindu, fine. This is how the fundamentalist brain thinks. But the reality is that I believe in loving people of all different religions, and I don't takfir them like Daniel does, and even fellow Muslims. So no, I'm not going to be here and be your stooge and condemn anyone or anything. And as far as Aga Khan the third, I mean, yeah, they would be loyalist to the British based on the fact that people like Daniel would want to kill Ismailis. He justified genocide, ethnic cleansing. Again, I have the tweet, Daniel.
Where did I justify?
Okay, I have. So let me get the tweet for you.
These are your lies. Where did I say I justified genocide? Show that.
Plausible deniability always for Daniel. Just like what did you mean when you said bungee jumping?
Hey,
of gays?
Why don't you say sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Why can't you send salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can you pronounce it? Can you pronounce praise on the Prophet?
I'm not.
Can you?
I believe that. I believe that respect. Yeah, you believe the Prophet. You literally were citing Christian warlords.
Sorry.
Why you say sallallahu alaihi?
Oh, wow. Gibrit 2 says to both, what's the meaning of salat in the Quran? Which is the root word? Go ahead, Javad first.
So, while Daniel pronounces sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he simultaneously uses Christian early accounts that he is a warlord, and those also said that he was a demon possessed, and he's using those sources to know about the Prophet. I, on the other hand, respect the Prophet and try to clear his good name from the filth that Daniel and his kind attribute to the Prophet. And so that's the reality. So I don't consider the Prophet to be a warlord like Daniel does.
This
he's
one
using Christian
from
sources for that.
Daniel, did you want to respond to that?
Wait, what was the question?
The root word for salat in the Quran. What's the meaning of salat?
It's a connection, sila.
This one from Corvo Adams says, question for Javad. You led Khutbah, but didn't memorize Ayat al-Kursi. We've already been over that. Abu Abdullah says, Javad, Masha Allah, Javad. Your recitation moved me. Are they being sincere?
Yeah.
This one
I have
from
no idea. I mean, my
Truth
recitation
Speaker.
is not the absolute worst. It's not the best.
He impressed me. I was impressed. I didn't think he knew the three quls. I was impressed.
This is a lot. This is a lie.
You are a real scholar. You're a real scholar.
What are your traditional?
You recited the three
quls. Give me your ijazat.
Amazing.
Give me your ijazat.
No, I was really impressed. I'm not being sarcastic.
What?
I'm not sarcastic.
Degree that you couldn't do.
You guys just talk at the same time. Hold on. I'm sorry, but Truth Speaker says, Daniel, is there any action of the U.S. government that would be egregious enough for you to do hijrah? Are you relying on them for protection from them? Go ahead, Daniel. Are you going to do some hijrah soon?
Hijrah means to emigrate out of the country. So, if the U.S. government banned education of children, like homeschooling and being able to control education, then I would personally try to do hijrah, and I would recommend that other Muslims in the country do hijrah. The problem is that the U.S. bombs countries that don't impose its liberal ideology. Like, that's the problem with moving to a country like Afghanistan or even countries in Africa, because the U.S. is constantly attacking and boycotting or imposing sanctions on countries that actually implement Islamic law. That's the problem.
The rest of these super chats look. There's one positive one. Totolino said, "Thanks for the debate. Have a good night. All credit to the speakers. They are the lifeblood of the channel. They're linked in the description. You can certainly hear more from them. Thanks for your positivity, Totolino." The rest of them are basically just people calling both of you bad names. So not very productive to read. We're going to go into the next section, which is 15. Oh, we got that one. 10-minute closing. So
10 or 5?
It's 10 is what I have. So
wow.
Unless there's an email that's different, that's what I've got here. So what we're going to do is first, let me just fix my screen. And then I'm going to hand it over to Javad went first. So we're going to have him go first for the closings. Javad, I've got the timer set for you. The floor is all yours.
Okay, just 1 second, please. All right, I'm ready to begin if you're ready.
Ready.
And if I could get a 2-minute or 1-minute warning, please. Thank you.
Deal.
All right, I'm going to begin now. All right, thank you so much. Let's recap how this dialectic began. I had been challenging Dishonest Dan for a long time to debate on the topic of Islamic modernism, which is the very thing he rails against all the time. In fact, his fraud of a book is literally called The Modernist Menace. Dishonest Dan knew what would happen if we debated that topic, and we all saw what happened in the last debate, where he revealed that he almost had no knowledge of Islamic studies. Because Daniel did not want to debate me on an intellectual level, since this would be bad for his grift business, he then instead chose his standard method of ad hominem attack, smearing me as a quote-unquote Fed. His exact accusation, as articulated again in our debate 2 weeks ago, was, and I quote, "You are on the payroll of an organization that is getting funding directly from the Department of Homeland Security," unquote. This is a demonstrably false lie and slander, which I could actually sue him for. I worked for MPAC for less than a year, during which time MPAC received $0 in federal funding and a grand total of $0 from the Department of Homeland Security. If Dishonest Dan was an honest man, he would retract and apologize and say, "I'll attack you from another angle." But he won't do that because he is, after all, Dishonest Dan. He can never admit that he was wrong or false or lying. The irony is that Dishonest Dan used the CVE attack against me, even though the MPAC controversy with regard to CVE took place several years ago before I joined MPAC and had nothing to do with me. Not only this, but Dishonest Dan himself accused Yaqeen Institute of being involved, at least in some way, with CVE officials and implicated with intelligence services. He uses 2017 post from Omar Suleiman to claim this, but Daniel, Dishonest Dan, you yourself were a part of Yaqeen at that time, and so you said nothing at that time against any of this. So wouldn't this make you a Fed by your own logic? The level of hypocrisies and double standards abounds in the case of Dishonest Dan, who is a serial liar and professional grifter. Dishonest Dan mocked me for supposedly getting fired from MPAC as research director. I wasn't fired. I resigned amicably. Meanwhile, Dishonest Dan was fired from Yaqeen and became a disgruntled employee afterward. He was fired from the exact same role as research director, but this doesn't stop Dishonest Dan about launching an accusation against me where he's vulnerable to counterattack. That's Dishonest Dan through and through. Dishonest Dan's grift means a shift to the far right. That's after he got fired from Yaqeen, he started attacking Yaqeen on the very things that he was promoting just a day before. And he has recently gone postal against Muslim leaders for their Navigating Differences paper on the LGBTQ issue. Yet Dishonest Dan himself published the first draft of Navigating Differences in 2019, which honestly was more mild towards the LGBTQ issue than the Navigating Differences paper. Everything he criticizes in Navigating Differences is in his own 2019 paper. Dishonest Dan and a grifter. That's what he is. Dishonest Dan criticizes Muslims for allying with people on the left, yet Dishonest Dan himself seeks allyship with white nationalists and red pill misogynists. He has friendly conversations with them, and then for plausible deniability, he calls them debates, even though they all say we had a great conversation, it really wasn't a debate, and we have all this common ground. Dishonest Dan accuses other Muslims of being bootlickers, but Dishonest Dan is himself a bootlicker, just a bootlicker of white nationalists. Remember his words that he would repeat to them: "I love white people. Please accept me as white." Dishonest Dan's desperate attempt at validation from the white nationalists and alt-right is sad, pathetic, and embarrassing. Dishonest Dan accuses Imr Suleiman and other Muslims of this or that simply because someone is standing next to them in a picture or video. He even comically criticizes them for too wide grins or kneeling. How about kneeling to white supremacists like Dishonest Dan does? Or about his multiple associations with Islamic extremists. He wants to distance himself from them, but then why doesn't he just repudiate these individuals and offer an apology? But like the true Trumpian character he is, he can't ever apologize or retract. Dishonest Dan should repudiate Haytham Saifuddin al-Alwan, the Al-Qaeda Mufti, Ahmad Musa Jibril, and all of these other figures that are sympathetic towards Islamic extremism, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. Dishonest Dan will now cry and play victim that you're putting his life and livelihood at risk by pointing out these links. Don't you think that it is the links themselves that threaten all of this, your own stated extremist views? And how about all the people that you put in danger? Dishonest Dan, I've heard that you, after you attacked Omar Suleiman, he now needs a security detail, and you have called me a Fed. And literally, you put my life in danger by the things that you say, and your followers call me a kafir, zindiq, and say that I need to be killed. After all, Mufti Abu Layth's house was attacked by your kind of right bros, and I was mentioned in the same video. So what about you putting my life at risk? But you just like to play victim all the time. And it's you who actually accuse Muslims of being feds, and you've also called the cops on Sherman Burgess for not committing a crime. He was an extremist, just like you are an extremist, but you snitched on him. Dishonest Dan accuses me of being a fed for simply cracking a joke or calling him ISIS light, whereas Dishonest Dan literally said to call the cops on Shimon Burgess, a far-right convert, as we've said. This is the Dishonest Dan. He's inconsistent. Meanwhile, I have said that Daniel is an extremist, but his speech is protected. I was even against his Twitter ban, let alone calling the cops on him. And there's the receipts that I've shown on that. Dishonest Dan, you go into the finances of other orgs, but you refuse to release the finances of your own for-profit business, and you come up with meek excuses for that. Dishonest Dan, you praise the Taliban and yet refuse to move there, instead live in the comfort of your own home in Texas with your rich family. Why is that? Dishonest Dan, your entire family is highly educated, with all the women in your family being educated and are working, including your own wife, who is a part of your organization and a spokesman for you on your YouTube YouTube channel. Now you're trying to hide behind her and claim that she has nothing to do with your organization. You literally have her on your YouTube. Why do you then preach that women should not receive a college education? You demean college education for women, yet you tout your wife's education and use it as marketing for your school to make money. Dishonest Dan, you make fun of men whose women work, yet your wife works and runs your institute. Dishonest Dan, you blur out the face of Muslim hijabis in your channel, yet your own wife, who is part of your organization and Grifter, does not wear niqab and has a public profile on Instagram without niqab. The one that I showed, but I'm the one who blurred it. You are the one who did not blur it. Your wife did not, at least. Or maybe you didn't know about that. Why does your wife cosplay on your YouTube channel? Dishonest Dan, you mock Khalil Andani for being a glorified TA at Augustana when you yourself have admitted that you tried to go to become a professor, but you were a failure in the graduate school tenure track. You were not able to go that route at all. So why are you lying and trying to downplay the achievement of Khalil Andani? Why do you lie all the time? Were you lying then or are you lying now? And if Andani is a glorified TA, what is your wife, who's a senior instructor at your made-up institute? Dishonest Dan, you've said to me numerous times that I'm a no-name nobody. But to your own audience, however, you say that I'm a Harvard academic and academics are getting more influential and that it's important to refute such people as me. So which one is it? You're a liar. That's what it is. You speak with both sides of your mouth. You claim that Harvard means nothing and you have even made fun of me for mentioning Harvard a lot. In fact, it's you who flaunts Harvard undergrad repeatedly. You're the only one I know who puts it on their book cover. You and your wife flaunt it and make that as part of your marketing strategy. You accuse me of deforming Islam. Fine, I'm a reformist. I admit that. But meanwhile, you destroy traditionalist Islam more than anyone else. You make Islamic traditionalism look barbaric and you attack all the traditionalist scholars as a layperson with no ijazah, something that is simply not allowed in traditionalism. You're not a traditionalist, you're a postmodernist. You're against hijabi women posing clothed in Playboy magazine, which I disagree with too, but you simultaneously consider sex slaves posing virtually naked in slave market as part of family values, which is worse than posing clothed in a magazine. Overall, you are a grifter of the worst kind. As Imam Suhaib Webb said about you, quote, you are completely unaccomplished intellectually and Islamically. All you have done is your social media following, which you have obtained through your extreme grift and selling out the Muslim community. You are nothing but a content creator, meme maker, and a non-serious failure in life. You had a promising beginning at Harvard, but it's been downhill ever since. You couldn't get into even Harvard's philosophy master's program, worked at a minimum wage job, and then you were desperate to get that job at Yaqeen. After you got fired, you've been angry ever since. You scrambled to make money, and now you're engaging all of this grift, taking us for a ride. I repeat the charges against you. You stand here accused of being an agent provocateur, spreading the worst stereotypes about Islam. You're an insincere grifter, an extremist, a racist, a hypocrite, a conspiracy theory kook, a smear merchant, and serial liar, and nobody should take you seriously. You are now found guilty, and the punishment we deem worthy is complete cancellation by the Muslim community. This means that nobody should be allowed to platform you again. Anyone who does so will also be canceled. Anyone who did it in the past must now issue a condemnation of you or also risk cancellation. I am, of course, not a mainstream traditionalist, so maybe my words will go in vain. That's fine. I'm happy with my position as an academic and liberal Islamic intellectual pushing the boundaries of Islamic thought. But the reality is that it's unfortunately some mainstream traditionalist organizations that supported you and platformed you and created the Frankenstein monster that is Daniel Haqiqatjou today. And they must reverse the damage and take the steps that I've laid out. Complete cancellation and repudiation. As far as MPAC, although I no longer work for this organization, I'll always be a proud supporter. Unlike Dishonest Dan, who works as an agent provocateur to reinforce the worst possible image of Islam, MPAC works to increase positive Muslim representation in the media, in Hollywood, and at all levels of the government. Those in such delicate situations must engage in the difficult balancing act that Dishonest Dan himself admitted to many years ago when he was speaking about Imam Umar Suleiman. In such difficult positions, sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. MPAC may have made mistakes in the past. Imam Suhaib Webb may have made mistakes in the past. Imam Umar Suleiman may have made mistakes in the past. But all of them have done immense good for our American Muslim community, and you have done nothing for the American Muslim community except divide them and spread fitna. You have favored grift and self-enrichment over service and community. You are a failure in this life, and you threaten to be a failure in the next life unless you cease and desist from this destructive path you have chosen to take. I sentence you now to cancellation. May God have mercy on your soul, because we do not.
We'll jump over to Daniel for his opening statement or closing statement. Long day. Thanks very much, Daniel. The floor is all yours.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I thought you were muted. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Javad claims that he's getting death threats. Every public figure gets death threats. That's part of being a public figure. The difference with Javad is that he uses terms that gets you in trouble with the federal government. This is Fed behavior. He's done it in both of our debates, and that's the difference. Every public figure gets death threats. So what? But you invoke language, and this is your plausible deniability. You say, oh, I don't want you to be attacked by the government, yet you use the triggering red flag language to smear someone as a supporter of terrorism, as you've done in this debate. This is exactly what CVE is about. You've demonstrated the worst aspects of CVE in this debate. Like, this is embarrassing and quite shocking behavior from you. It's true, when it comes to critical race theory, I don't accept critical race theory, but that doesn't make me a white supremacist. This is a bizarre accusation from someone who is literally promoting a white supremacist, Sir Sayyid Ahmed Khan. You literally praise him and you say, yeah, he has some white supremacist views, but I think he's being judged too harshly. Like, that's your perspective on a Uncle T, native of informant colonizer. You did dox my family. I think that's the biggest news about this debate. You showed pictures of my children. You used my wife's name, which is not public on our site. You claim that, oh, well, there's articles that have her name, but how do you know, like, if that's my wife or not, my current wife? You don't know that. This is what doxing means. So you've doxed my wife's name. You have posted pictures of my children. And anyway, what kind of scumbag, even if my wife is involved with my organization, what kind of scumbag, like, just focuses so much of his talking points on my wife? Like, this is a really bad look. It's disgusting. I'm shocked that you would take this. It's like, you talk about suicide bombing. You basically torpedoed your own career for the purpose of saying my wife's name and showing her picture. Like, this is so stupid. I hope Khalil didn't encourage you to do this, because if he did, he's really your enemy. And Khalil, by the way, man up and debate me. Stop running. Okay. It's interesting. Javad couldn't confirm that you're a Muslim because you don't pray. You think it's permissible to drink alcohol. Yeah, you consider someone who doesn't accept the daily prayers, who thinks that it's fine to eat during Ramadan. He believes hey, don't interrupt my opening statement. Come on, James. He doesn't believe that you need to pray or fast or do Hajj. You think he's a Muslim. So that's very interesting. Why won't Khalil debate me after I took care of his puppy here over 2 debates? My wife does not have an Instagram. This is a blatant lie. Have you heard of impersonation, Jafed? Have you heard that you can impersonate? There are so many accounts that are impersonating me. I really hope no one impersonates you on Twitter or on Facebook or anywhere else, or your family members. This is something that is extremely distasteful, but it happens to people. So my wife does not have an Instagram. You say I'm anti-white, but I defend Andrew Tate. Do you know Andrew Tate is not a white man? He's half black. So where's the racism with that? I had a minimum wage job after grad school. Yeah, are you looking down on that? It wasn't minimum wage. It was $12 an hour. I was in a difficult situation and I worked hard and I got a job in the tech field. I worked in the tech field for about 8 years. Alhamdulillah, it was a great experience over multiple companies in Silicon Valley. So I have been a professional for a long time. Yeah, you couldn't dox that, could you, Jafed? Go and dox my employment record, and you'll see the companies that I worked for in Silicon Valley. I worked for companies like Staples. I worked for Fortune, or I didn't work directly for Staples, but I worked with them as a client. So this is like such a stupid smear with your disgusting, arrogant elitism. Yeah, so you didn't answer the questions I posed to you about MPAC's pro-invasion stance. You had no response to that. Their pro-Zionism, you had no response to that. For their pro-CVE stance, you admitted that, okay, they were involved with CVE, but mistakes were made, but they're not so bad. And ultimately, it was good that MPAC was involved with CVE because, they made it better for Muslims. This is exactly what every native informant, every Uncle Tom or Uncle T claims. You're no different than any of these colonial agents who claim that, yeah, we're helping the colonizer because if we weren't helping the colonizer, it would actually be worse for Muslims. Or Muslims who go into the military, or Murtads, I should say, who go into the US military and go and kill Muslims overseas, they can claim, oh, we're just making it better for Muslims because we're not killing as many Muslims as would have been killed otherwise if we weren't part of the US military or the CIA or any of these kinds of agencies that are killing or oppressing Muslims. So this kind of argument is very typical of the native informants and feds or Fed affiliates. Let's remind everyone that you begged me begged me to delay the debate. And James is here, he can confirm that you begged me to delay the debate. And out of, my kindness, I granted you that. And then I found out that you were sharing or you were following. There's like multiple accounts that dox me with just 2 or 3 or 10 followers, and you follow every single dox account. Okay, that's number one. And then you reply to these docs accounts. And yeah, you say something like, oh, don't share pictures of Daniel's family. But you know that when you reply to an account, that will show up on the timeline of your followers. You know that. And that's what you do because you're such a sleazy scumbag. And I don't have to convince the audience because you directly dox my family on this stream. It's unprecedented. There's no debate that James has had where this has happened. Like, you got his stream in trouble because of your irresponsible and unethical behavior, your cowardly behavior. So you begged me to delay the debate. Oh, and then coincidentally, you announced that you're leaving MPAC. Just a few days ago. Wow, what an interesting coincidence. Is that because you were canned? Is that because you were fired, Jafed? I don't know. I don't make a claim that you were fired because I don't have the receipts for that. So I'm just speculating. As for me, I was not fired from Yaqeen. I can provide the receipts from that. I left Yaqeen after they would not allow me to publish certain views on feminism, on LGBT, etc. That's why I left Yaqeen, but I was not fired. My employment with them was not terminated. I was not fired. And I dare Yaqeen to say otherwise because I'll bring all the receipts. So these are just lies from you. Let's see. Also, you claim to have such respect for imams and scholars. Like, you keep name dropping these American scholars. Like, you hate traditional Islam. So you should hate all of these scholars. So what is, and plus these kinds of figures that you're name dropping, like Omar Suleiman, trust me, they don't want you to, their names in your mouth. Like, that's bad publicity for them. Yeah, so so you claim that you're so sensitive about your child's health. I was showing consideration for your child's health when you asked, oh, my child has a fever, let's delay the debate. But then you post pictures of my children in the debate. Like, that shows what kind of a scumbag you are. So yeah, overall, this debate, I think, went about as much as I expected. You can't recite Ayatul Kursi. My 5-year-old, like, Muslims can respond in the chat. Like, when did you learn Ayatul Kursi? His excuse is, oh, Surah Al-Baqarah is the longest surah in the Quran. Yeah, so what? It's one verse of the Quran that children memorize because you're supposed to recite it as protection. Maybe that's why you are failing so much in life, Jafed, and in this debate, because you're not reciting Ayatul Kursi. Here's my recommendation for you. First, number one, say praise the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after you mention him. This is something that will bring benefit for you. Maybe guidance will come to you and you'll leave your state of apostasy. Maybe start reciting Ayatul Kursi, learn it, memorize it. This will protect you from evil forces. Yeah, roll your eyes. I know that you don't really believe in the unseen, but Ayatul Kursi is a sort of protection. Yeah, chuckle. That makes you look really good. Ayatul Kursi will protect you. So you need to learn that and memorize it. Say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, salawat after the name of the Prophet. And stop being such a sleazebag. Stop spreading photos of people's wives and children online. Like, that's another big advice I have for you. You're off of MPAC, so I would have told you to quit MPAC to save your reputation. You're already out of that organization mysteriously. I don't know what's the real story behind that, but yeah, MPAC is such a Fed organization. Its harm to the Muslim community has been established just by my opening statement.
And
No one had a response to that, so alhamdulillah.
time. With that, want to say thank you very much, gentlemen. It has been something tonight, that's for sure. Actually, I think we could leave it at that. I do want to say thank you very much, gentlemen. Folks, we have many more upcoming debates. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button as we have many more upcoming debates. I want to say thanks so much for being with us, folks. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us here tonight as well.
Thanks,
Thank you,
James.
James. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Folks, stick around. I'm going to do like a 2-minute after show housekeeping stuff, in particular about keeping the chat clean from any sort of ethnic slurs as a reminder. And want to say, though, thanks for your support. I'll be back in just a moment. So, about 23 seconds. Stick around, folks, and I'll be back in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here. Let me just fix, looks like the camera's frozen. Want to say, my dear friends, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for all of your support. As a reminder, we do want to say, obviously, you can't have any sort of ethnic slurs in the live chat. By the way, I want to say thank you to the 99.9% of you who did not have any sort of ethnic slurs in the live chat. And we know that, you're here and you're like, hey, James, I never did anything like that. And I want to acknowledge that and say thank you. So I don't know why is it just me or the picture quality looks funky? But I do want to say this. Thank you guys for all of your support. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. And not only that, yeah, it's all, oh, I know why here, I can do this. Let me fix it. It might work. Oh no, now it's frozen again. But do want to say, folks, how are you in the chat? Say hello. Do appreciate all of your support. I'm just gonna fix this here Zoom meeting. There we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. Cool. Thank you guys for being so supportive. And how are you guys doing? I've got to go in just a minute, but did just want to say thank you guys for being with us. We do have a big debate that just got confirmed yesterday. That's this Friday. So I'm just going to actually remove this little box altogether. So this Friday, Matt Dillahunty and Muhammad are going to be debating whether or not Islam is true. You don't want to miss it. So, like I said, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And just want to say, though, thank you guys seriously for all of your support. It really does mean more than you know. And so, love ya. Modern Day Debate is a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from, Muslim, atheist, Christian, you name it. Thanks for all of your support, folks. We will see you at the next debate. Like I said, this is this coming Friday. Thanks, guys, for your support. Ozzy Gold, I see you there in the live chat. Thanks for your channel membership support. And thank you so much as well for your kind words. But yeah, I want to say thanks. I love you guys. I got to get to sleep. It's super late here. But thanks for all of your guys' support. Thanks for your encouragement. I see your positive words in the live chat. Thanks for your support. Eunice, am I saying it right? Ibn Abdurham, thank you guys. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much, Chris G. Man, you've been here for a long time. Thank you for your kind words. And hey, thank you guys for all your support. I really do appreciate it. I love you guys. Thanks so much, Open Mic. Thank you guys, Zen 2011. Thank you guys for all of your support. I love you guys. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. M Shakes, thanks for your kind words. Love you guys. Ahmed, thanks for your kind words. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Ibn Abdurham Erman. Thank you for your support. Thanks, Farhan Qureshi. Thank you guys for all of your support at Modern Day Debate. We'll see you at the next one. And thanks again. I'm excited about the future, folks. See you at the next one.